What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, coming through today for another episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming to you guys live today over on our YouTube page as well as over on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. So definitely go ahead and follow us there as well. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, do us a big favor, man. Hit that subscribe button. It definitely does go a long way to make sure that you are certainly caught up to date with all the great news that winds up dropping throughout the week, along with some great reviews that we usually have during the week as well, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much, everybody who's wrapping up your weekend with us. It is, in fact, Sunday afternoon, wherever you're certainly at. Hopefully the weather's going fantastically well. Hopefully you've had a fantastic weekend yourself. But it's not just myself here today that's going to be bringing you guys news and some amazing discussion topics today. We also are here with good old Stuart Branscombe in the house. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
What's up?
Yo, I haven't heard somebody do that in decades, man. What's up? How you been?
I've been pretty good this week. Yeah, pretty chill, uneventful though, but yeah.
Do you got a Budweiser with you if you out here talking like that?
Huh? No. If only, then that would have been perfect.
Hey, I got a question for you. Is that a Clerks or Jay and Silent Bob hoodie? What is that?
It's from the Secret Stash in New Jersey. When I went there for a wedding, we had time to stop by the Jay and Silent Bob Secret Stash, and I'm like, I'm not leaving without a souvenir of some sort. So
I love it, man.
Yeah, originally I was planning to buy the Kevin Smith run of Green Arrow if they were selling it, because I thought if I'm going to buy a Kevin Smith comic book, I should do it at the Secret Stash. But unfortunately, like as far as I could see, they didn't have it. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just go with the sweatshirt instead.
I love it, man. Good choice, bro. Good choice. Unfortunately, we don't have Indy with us today. He certainly will be back at some point in time. I know you guys got the opportunity to see him in our midweek show. So thank you very much to Indy and you too, Stuart, for having a great midweek episode for us and tackling some live viewer questions. Really appreciate it, man. How do you like the midweek format?
I think it worked really well. I was worried because, when I got called in, I'm like, oh, crap, maybe an hour is not going to be enough time. No, it was perfect. We happened to wrap it up right when I needed to go to work. So it was perfect.
Nice. Now, is that going to be your new schedule going forward? Or if we were to move it to 7 weekly, is that okay for you also?
Not 100% sure yet, because unfortunately my schedule when it comes to the weekdays are pretty inconsistent. At least with weekends, I always know what to expect, but weekdays are very it really just kind of depends on how busy we are. And I guess Maverick is doing a little bit better than we expected.
And better than you expected, man. I would have expected.
What do you mean? Did. We expected it to do good. That's the thing.
Oh, but it's doing even better, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. That's great news for Maverick for sure. Guys, if you guys certainly did enjoy our midweek, or even if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, please go ahead and do so. There is a link in the description box below for you guys, or at least if anything, you can go ahead and check it up on our YouTube page. We definitely will be doing midweeks for you guys as well. Whether that's going to be at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. on Wednesday, we'll definitely keep you notified, but definitely pay close attention, to say the least. Let's see who's in the live chat with us today. I know we got a couple of people that certainly decided to join. Whether or not they stuck around, we'll certainly see. It looks like we've got 7 people joining us live, so that's always a fantastic thing to hear. We got good old Francois certainly coming through. Enrique Perez is certainly in here saying he got the opportunity to check out Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and thought it was amazing, along with the new animated short. And then, we got Lightyear certainly coming up so far. So some great animation on deck for us. Good old Nicole Robinson certainly in the house. If I'm not mistaken, Stuart and Enrique, I believe Sonic 2 is now on Paramount Plus, free for streaming, isn't it? It's out of the theaters now?
I think so. It's been out of the theaters for a while, so I would assume it's probably on Paramount Plus now.
I thought I saw an ad for it the other day, so definitely go ahead and check it out. Good old Suck My Own Balls is there, the most talented man in the world. We got Abase in the house as well. Good old Michael Rhymes is in the house. Good old Jack Daniels, because it's 5 o'clock somewhere, is here joining us today. Good old Morgan Hutchinson's in the house. We also got Roberto here with us today. Carter Matthews making his presence felt. Kurt Marino in here as well. We got Jericho Gonzalez, my boy Adrian Perez coming through. Chris Cross making a name for himself around here. I can't remember if I said what's up Gabriel or not, but what's up Gabriel? And of course we got Tarek in here as well. Marcelino's in the house. We talked a little bit earlier this morning in the chat, and we even got Gabriel Arredondo. What's up, Gabe? Good to see you, man. Appreciate you certainly coming through. And Mr. Tony Robinson, he says, "What's up, Stuart? Good to see you, man. Thanks for everybody coming through today. I feel like we got a packed house today, man."
Yeah, actually. And it's yeah, I was worried when we started because there was like only one viewer, I think, and now we're at 7. So yeah.
Yeah, not a bad start to the Sunday show, guys. But you guys know how we do around here. We're going to go ahead and start off with some honorable mentions. Some topics that didn't quite necessarily make the cut, but we definitely thought you should certainly know about it. And then we've got ourselves 6 topics that we're going to be breaking down for you guys. We actually got a lot of Star Wars on deck today, simply because of the fact that we had Star Wars Celebration this week. Started Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I believe it is in fact wrapping up today. We have kind of talked a little bit about Star Wars this week. There are a couple of videos up already on our YouTube page if you want to get caught up in regards to like Andor. I believe there was also a Skeleton Crew video that we wind up doing, but we will be wrapping up a ton of Star Wars Celebration content for you guys. We even have some J.J. Abrams in the news this week, Stuart. We got 2 topics off of him we're going to be talking about, along with some great movie and television news for you guys today. But we'll go ahead and start off with some honorable mentions. Stuart, do you have any honorable mentions by any chance for today? I think you're muted.
Yeah, honestly, I got nothing today other than
any honorable any recommendations?
I guess Obi-Wan. I watched the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan when they came out, and yeah, so far it's really good. And it's also funny too, because a lot of people who claim to not like, or sorry, I shouldn't say that. A lot of people who didn't like The Last Jedi seem to also be digging Obi-Wan, even though there's quite a few parallels I noticed between Obi-Wan and The Last Jedi. But overall, I'm digging it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Rerum Trading also for certainly coming through. He says 4th like. I'm assuming maybe he hit that like button already. And trust me, if you guys are in the live chat and you come here on a weekly basis, hit that like button, guys. It really does go a long way for our algorithm. But that's funny that you mentioned that, Stuart, in regards to Obi-Wan Kenobi. I definitely would recommend you guys check it out. We are reviewing Obi-Wan Kenobi here in our on our YouTube channel. So if you are looking for a home for your Obi-Wan Kenobi reviews, we are certainly here for you. But that's one of the things that I mentioned, Stuart. I can't remember if it was in my episode 1 review or my episode 2 review, was that one of the things that I loved about it was just kind of seeing Obi-Wan very much in his own exile, his mindset that he has in regards to really doing his best to stay hidden. Some of the things that he tells sort of a former Jedi in, I guess it might have been episode 1, was very eerily familiar to a good old Luke Skywalker, who wind up doing the same thing, struggling with his own guilt and failures in his own way, and winds up exiling himself, sort of thing. So there is a lot of eerie parallels there. And I really hope that people's awareness of Obi-Wan Kenobi does bring a different appreciation for a movie like The Last Jedi. Honestly, I really hope so, Stuart. Because it's literally the same thing, bro, right? Like, it's literally the same thing.
I mean, they're both in a self exile after like accidentally creating like a dark Sith Lord, and then they both turn down a Jedi who seek them out for help. The only difference is that, you know, with Obi-Wan, it was a bit too late for him to change his mind the next day.
Yeah,
we kind of saw.
But absolutely.
But definitely, I'm digging the show so far. Visually, I think it's great. And so like the actor for the Grand Inquisitor, obviously I don't want to say anything about him so far, but I'll say this. I got worried from the makeup because it doesn't look anything like how I imagined him looking like in live action. But the performance he gives feels very spot on to the Inquisitor from Star Wars Rebels. So I'm absolutely digging it.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Grand Inquisitor. I'm really not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm really not. I miss me some Jason Isaacs, not only as his voice, but I think he's probably a much better actor than Rupert Friend. But so for me, I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm glad that you're at least enjoying him, man. I really am. I'm glad you are.
Yeah, I am surprised they didn't get Jason Isaac because it's not like he hasn't done like live action roles before.
I'm really surprised, especially as talented. We've seen him in some great movies too. Like it's not
Yeah.
like he hasn't done big roles like this before. So I was a little bit confused in that end as well. But we'll see how it continues to turn out. But again, the first 2 episodes, guys, of Obi-Wan Kenobi are up on Disney Plus. Go ahead and check it out if you certainly have not done so. Another honorable mention I'll even go and throw out there for us, Stuart. Indiana Jones 5 is back
Ooh.
in the news. Star Wars Celebration, their very first panel, talking about Lucasfilm live action films that they're working on. Indiana Jones 5 certainly did go ahead and get some spotlight real quick, just showing a concept art design. This actually doesn't look like concept art. This looks like an actual like set photo, but I could be wrong. But the movie's happening, guys. It's coming. Harrison Ford revealed it also, I think, for next year, 2023. They say it's coming. We've got a photo here. I guess maybe we should be inclined to believe them. But Stuart, do you think we're still getting this movie, or you think there's a possibility it continues to get pushed back?
No, I feel like at this point they have to make this movie now, and if it doesn't happen in like the next 3 or 4 years, it's not going to happen because I'm sorry, I love Harrison Ford, but the dude's getting a little bit too old to keep doing this kind of stuff. So they got to use him now while he's still young and healthy-ish.
Well, filming is definitely underway if it hasn't already wrapped. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to be going in post production soon if they haven't already. But I love this photo here, man. This just gives me Indiana Jones vibes, and I really do love the new, I should say, crew in regards to director and writer. I believe it's James Mangold that's going to be taking over for this. So I'm really ready for a fresh take and a fresh vision on an Indiana Jones movie. And I think if you look at James Mangold's work that he's done in the past, I think it's something to really, really get excited about. So I thought that was pretty cool that they finally gave us our first glimpse of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. And you guys touched on this midweek, but I did want to give this even more shine this week also, because I know you guys tackled it towards the end of live viewer questions, but I did want to go ahead and actually give it a spot at the beginning of the show. We have been talking Blue Beetle for you guys as of recent. They did go ahead and drop some brand new photos for us to show Jolo Maraduena as Jaime Reyes coming through as good old Blue Beetle, getting the opportunity to finally see his costume for the first time. And I got to admit, man, I freaking love this costume. I know Indy was kind of giving some Guyver references. I kind of do dig it also. I can kind of see some of the resemblance there. I will be interested to kind of see in post-production what VFX kind of features are added to this. Is it kind of like an alien tech that kind of takes over him like a Guyver, if you will, or is there more, actual armored pieces that he puts on sort of thing? I will be curious to see how his costume forms on him. I think somebody, even on Twitter, I saw somebody try and make a connection between this costume and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers costume from 2017, saying that it was almost like they just reused the costume. I don't necessarily see it there, Stuart, but I'm loving what I'm seeing, and Jolo looks fantastic in this costume, bro. I was already excited for this, but now getting to see actual photos, I'm even more stoked, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think the Guyver comparison is perfect for this because, yeah, it looks very much like that movie. But like, I personally really liked the first, or actually liked both the Guyver movies. So, kind of seeing this costume now, but like a little more updated version of the Guyver, a lot more slick, I'd say. I think it's going to be pretty cool, and I like that. I was worried it was going to be like a motion capture suit, because I feel like for a lot of the abilities of the Blue Beetle, you do need to rely a little bit on some CG there. So I think what they're going to do, I'm pretty sure the costume itself, as we can see, is going to be practical, but very likely the kind of legs of the kind of bug on his back that you can kind of see on the sides of his costume, I'm assuming those might be like kind of more CG, like in post-production, in order to like kind of work more with like how his costume works in the comics. but like as a base costume, this is just so perfect. I think my only nitpick, and this is again because it's a set photo, I'm sure like on camera it's going to be a lot better, but it does kind of look like with the knee what do you call it, knee pads, like they seem kind of uneven, but I think it's just like one of those things where it's like they're not meant to stay in place in between shots, but they're meant to be like easy to adjust, so like when they're doing their next setup, when they're doing their next shot, they can easily adjust it back to normal.
Yeah, you might be right. And I do love the accuracy of this costume. It feels like it's
Mhm.
literally ripped right out of the comic books. And I got to give shout outs to the costume designers here for the DC Cinematic Universe. I've loved this costume. I know some people want to try and hate on the Leslie Grace Batgirl, but I absolutely love the Batgirl costume also, in the way that it kind of comes together as like a makeshift kind of uniform. But these two look great. And I cannot wait to kind of see how this film winds up coming together. And once we wind up getting further details and more pictures, guys, we'll definitely go ahead and let you know. But yeah, this movie will in fact be released in theaters for you guys. So a lot to certainly look forward to. All right, and I believe with that out of the way, Stuart, that will wrap up our honorable mentions for today. I believe Francois did ask, will we be doing live viewer questions? Yes, we will be tackling live viewer questions. We got a plethora of live viewer questions on deck, so we'll get to as many as we can. And Stuart, I think you mentioned something about maybe doing a solo live viewer question video at some point. Have you thought
Yeah.
about that?
Well, I was going to last week, but then there was like kind of a weird thing where like when I was trying to log into Google, it needed permission for you, but for some
Oh,
reason
yeah.
you weren't getting the notification. So we'll try it again this week and
Okay.
see if it works a little bit better.
Yeah, we'll
Fingers
definitely go.
crossed.
Yeah, we'll definitely go ahead and do that, just so we can try and play some catch up, so that when we do come into either the midweek show or next Sunday's episode, we've got some fresh questions to certainly go ahead and dive into. But we will be tackling some live viewer questions for you guys. Nicole says, any updates on the Barbie movie? Thinking of forcing my boyfriend to go see it. I bet you probably won't even have to force him to go see this movie. I think he'll see Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie and be like, yeah, let's go ahead and check it out. But no other updates as of right now, but I'll definitely keep you in mind if I do hear anything. Nicole, Michael said, I thought Indiana Jones films already ended years ago. A lot of people thought so as well, but no, we're at least getting one more. I thought there was going to be a reboot with Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson. It wouldn't surprise me if that idea was thrown around, but I don't think Harrison Ford is allowing anybody else to be Indiana Jones.
Man, I feel like at that point, yeah, if they did Tom Holland, then I would be like, yeah, Tom Holland's a bit overused now. Just because he's really good, that doesn't mean you should just like kind of milk his talent until
Everything,
like
right?
he never wants to act again, you know?
Absolutely. Tarek says he freaking loves the blue Beetle suit. Looks so dope. I agree. I'm a really big fan of it. And he does say, Adrian Perez says, which are you most excited about, Batgirl, The Flash, or the Blue Beetle movie?
Probably the Flash for me, because that's the one where they're really getting very comic booky with it. So excuse
Yeah,
me. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how they like how crazy they go with it.
Yeah, me too, man. I can't wait to see what they have in store. That's probably the Flash movie is probably my more anticipated one, just because of the fact that we got a Supergirl is supposed to be in there. Michael Keaton's coming back. Ben Affleck is going to be in that movie. I really want to see how it changes the landscape kind of going forward. So still very much excited for the Flash, regardless. But other than that, Stuart, I think if anything, we should start diving into our main topics, man. We got a plethora of topics to tackle today, a lot of Star Wars. So let's go ahead and put on our nerd caps today, man, and really dive into some Star Wars lore. I got this damn fly that keeps like bothering me. So if you
Wait. You can take your nerd cap off? What?
when I'm sleeping, man. You know what I'm saying? But
Not
let's
even when I'm sleeping. When I'm sleeping, I have dreams about nerd stuff.
I love it. But let's go ahead and dive into this week's topics. That being Star Wars Celebration on the brink. We had a ton of great content and reveals this week. I honestly, watching some of the live streaming from Star Wars Celebrations just made me wish I was back there, man. I was really bummed I didn't get the opportunity to get a press pass this year. year, but hopefully next year. I feel like this was kind of, I don't want to say put together last minute, but once they started opening up applications and things, I felt like it was a very quick turnaround, if you will. And I think maybe coming out of post-pandemic, I don't necessarily know if it was as crowded or as packed as it usually is. So I do wonder if they maybe limited the amount of people that could certainly attend. But I certainly will plan on trying to attend the next celebration here. But we had some great content, Stuart. I don't know if you had the opportunity to check out everything that wind up dropping this week, but I wanted to highlight a lot of stuff that wind up coming out Friday and Saturday, specifically yesterday, because they did do more live action panels for us. And one of the topics that they wind up bringing up was, in fact, the Ahsoka series, since that is, in fact, one of the upcoming series we have to look forward to. Rosario Dawson was out there on the stage, and they had a ton of great reveals for us, along with a teaser trailer, believe it or not, Stuart, one that us as the public are not getting the opportunity to see. So I am really bummed about that. But those over at Star Wars Celebration did get their glimpse of live action footage from Ahsoka and some great surprises along the way, Stuart. So while we don't have the clip to show you, we do have good old IGN.com that certainly came through, not only with a great trailer description, but also some reveals for us to thoroughly enjoy, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive into this, man, as we get into our Star Wars bag today. Let's go ahead and pull this up. This is from IGN. This is an Ahsoka first look tease at the Star Wars Rebels, Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, Hera Syndulla, and Chopper. As it says, Ahsoka will be joined by some familiar faces. I'm really starting to look at as Ahsoka at this point now, Stuart, as Star Wars Rebels 2.0. A new season, this time in live action, and it's headed our way, guys. Star Wars Celebration has given those in attendance the first look at the upcoming Ahsoka series and teased live action versions of Star Wars Rebels characters. It says Sabine Wren, Chopper, and Hera Syndulla will be a part of this series. And with the mural of Ezra Bridger in the show, there's a good chance he may appear as well. It says, while the general public will have to wait to see the Ahsoka footage, IGN was in attendance and can share that it begins with Ahsoka on the Bridge of the Ghost, the very popular ship from Star Wars Rebels piloted by Hera. It says, and she is joined by Hera Syndulla, although we only see her from the back. We also get to get what appears to be a live action recreation of the final scene of Star Wars Rebels, and get to look at Sabine Wren from the back looking at a mural that includes an illustrated Ezra Bridger. They also confirmed that the actress Natasha Liu Bordizzo will be playing the live action version of Sabine Wren. Bordizzo also stopped by the Star Wars Celebration and shared a bit about how much this role means to her. She says, so much I could say. I feel like I've just been adopted into a new family. I feel that way about everyone I work with, but also the fans. It's just the most welcoming, creative. I mean, I've never experienced anything like this. The set is going really well. She says, I know how much Sabine means to many people in this room, and I know how much she means to Dave, and I think you guys are going to be really excited about the journey she's about to have. All these characters were first introduced in Star Wars Rebels, and their story will continue in Ahsoka this upcoming 2003. So it's going to be here before we know it. So, yeah, man, some great Ahsoka news here, Stuart. Let me go ahead and throw this over to you first, though. As someone who is a big Star Wars, I'm sure a big Star Wars Rebels fan, what's your idea of hearing this and getting a glimpse of the Ahsoka footage and the idea that we're getting live action Star Wars Rebels here?
Dude, I actually didn't read much of this because I was like, I was just kind of wanting to go into this a little bit surprised, but now that you've told me all this, man, every single thing you told me about Ahsoka is getting me really excited. I had no idea there would be this many Rebels characters. Like, I knew Thrawn was going to be in it, and I knew we were going to get Sabine Wren, but like seeing that they apparently recreate that last shot from Rebels where they're looking at that one mural and knowing that that's where it's going to be taken off, that gets me excited. The possibilities of like, some of the characters that that played maybe like a small role or that we barely got to see in Rebels, such as Hera's kid that we see she has at the very end of
Yeah.
it. I'm looking forward to seeing like where he's at, because I feel like that had to have been like at the end of episode 6, so 7 years later he would be a little bit older. So I'm curious where his story is going to go, whether or not he also has force powers. And yeah, overall, I'm also just like really curious on if we're going to get any other like characters from Mandalorian or Luke Skywalker kind of making cameos. Like if this was like, a few years ago, I would say that's very unlikely, but just seeing how many legacy characters they've been bringing back in recent Star Wars television, it's just at this point, anything's possible. And seeing just like hearing about what they've already told us about Star Wars Celebration, it's like if they're giving this much away when all we have is a teaser, this show must have a lot going for it when it actually comes out.
Yeah, I say leave it up to Dave Filoni to just continue to impress. Like the fact that he's finally getting an opportunity to tell his Star Wars Rebels story in live action, to me just kind of blows me away that he's come this far with these characters and these projects, and now he's really kind of living his dream of being able to expand their story. Like you always got the sense after watching Star Wars Rebels that there was a lot more to the story to certainly tell. And at some point in time, I think even for myself, I thought, oh, he's going to come back and work on these characters in maybe another animated form at some point in time. He's just maybe taking a break. But the fact that we're getting it in live action, I think this is even just so much cooler that we've gotten to this point in time in our lives, just where technology is at these days. But I'm super pumped for this, man. I absolutely love Star Wars Rebels. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to do so, please check it out. They even showcase like the differences between what we saw in Ahsoka from Mandalorian to this particular series. Her lake coup, I believe, has grown or gotten even longer in her own series. I've had the opportunity of seeing some of the bootleg footage over on Twitter. Clearly somebody's got to have a phone out there at these celebrations and conventions to record something. While they certainly are brief teases, the teases that I have seen, man, I truly cannot wait for this show. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Star Wars is really building itself up to. I think they've been doing some fantastic work, not only with The Mandalorian. I was a little bit let down when it comes to Book of Boba Fett. It kind of left me a little bit deflated, but I'm loving what we have when it comes to Obi-Wan. Andor looks fantastic, and I think the same thing can certainly be said about Ahsoka. So, I will say this, Stuart, while we finally have, I will be curious to see who's playing Hera. I do want to see how they bring her to life and who they're going to have represent her. I'm not too familiar with the actress that's going to be playing Sabine Wren, but I'm really glad that they finally cast for her, because I remember a while back we thought Sasha Banks that was going to, or at least there was a rumor going around that Sasha Banks that we were going to see in The Mandalorian might be Sabine Wren. And unfortunately, that definitely didn't happen. But Sabine Wren is finally coming to the big screen. And there has been rumors quite some time. I don't remember if you recall this, Stuart. There were rumors. I think me, you, and Indy might have talked about this once. I can't remember if it was a tweet or a post on Instagram that Rosario Dawson did in revealing that the gentleman that played Aladdin in the live action movie, I believe his name is Mina Massoud, teasing the idea that he might even be our Ezra Bridger for this season. And while nobody's confirmed that, and it's been really hush hush since that tease or that rumor began, I still think he's a great casting choice if that's the case. I mean, if you look at Mina, I can definitely see him fitting an older Ezra Bridger. And so there is a part of me that's hoping that Mina has landed this role when you've already worked with Disney and proven your worth when it comes to the Aladdin movie. While I don't think he's the best part of that movie, I definitely do think he's certainly delivered. And I do hope that Mina winds up actually being Ezra Bridger here. So for me, it's just interesting to try and wrap my head around the fact that we are getting these characters in live action. And this just is such a huge accomplishment for Dave Filoni, as it feels like a culmination of all his hard work. You know what I mean?
I'm very curious with Ezra what kind of Jedi he's going to be when we get to see him again, because last time we saw him he was spending some time with some space whales. So I'm wondering if that like time with them has like kind of changed him over over the years, or if if it's going to be the same kind of goofy Ezra that we got from Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, I will be interested too, because just based off of the things that they've been through, again, we don't know what he's been through during this entire time period. He's very much been lost, along with him and Admiral Thrawn. So, how much has Admiral Thrawn changed? Right? Has him and
Mhm.
have him and Ezra been stuck together this entire time and have had to like help each other fend to survive? You know what I mean? Like, who certainly knows? What are you thinking now?
Ooh, now I'm God, I always mispronounce what they're called, so I'm really sorry.
The
But
Chiss?
knowing that they, huh?
What, his race or something? His race of people?
No, no, not Thrawn's race, but like
Oh,
in the books, like the whole reason Thrawn was like pro Empire was because like he thought the Empire was like a very necessary step when it came to defending themselves against the Uzon Vong, I think is what they're called,
oh,
which are
yeah.
like these alien races that are unaffected by the Force and everything.
From the
So
expanded universe, right?
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So, knowing that this takes place after the original trilogy, just like the Thrawn trilogy, book series did, I'm wondering maybe like Ezra and Thrawn both learn about the Uzon Vong together, and then they decide to go about their own different ways of trying to prepare for them. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That would be pretty cool, because I do love how sometimes Star Wars does nitpick things from the expanded universe and makes them canon, or at least changes things around to fit them into the world that they're trying to create. So, if they did get stuck into the outer region somewhere, who certainly knows what they've definitely have come across out there. But Ahsoka's going to be here, guys, before we certainly know it. And just based off of everything that we've seen so far, Sabine finally officially cast, Chopper being in this show. We're going to be on the bridge of the Ghost in a live action series. This is right up my alley, especially if you're a big Star Wars Rebels fan, as their story definitely continues. And for me, you know what I dig about this, Stuart, is that while this feels like a Star Wars Rebels 2.0, I think we also have to remember that this is also on the back of the Mandalorian season. And as much as Kathleen Kennedy has talked about interconnecting things in all these series, we've definitely have seen them building, right? Mando, the Book of Boba, sort of like a side aspect of the series, but very much still connected to push Mando's story forward. I know we're going to be getting something like Ahsoka that takes place during this time period. I think we will very much get Ahsoka's story, but I would not be surprised if there is elements of maybe Mando's story kind of trickled in there as well. Do you think that's a possibility in regards to connective pieces? Because I think there's even more to come in regards to all these characters and Mando together at some point.
I think
That's
yeah,
just my assumption, though.
I feel like there's going to be at some point like a big kind of event that brings them all together. I don't know if it'll be in Ahsoka or if it'll be in Mandalorian season 3, but I do feel like at some point, whether it be for taking back the planet of Mandalore, or whether it's for trying to take down Admiral Thrawn, at some point, I'm pretty sure we're going to have them all like happen to team up at some point, and this will be kind of like it'll be kind of like a new Star Wars, or like a newly explored Star Wars era, essentially.
I hope so. I think that would be pretty cool. It has felt like they've been building towards like the Battle of Mandalore, or trying to maybe acquire Mandalore again. I would be interested to see if that's their ultimate goal and what they're going to be working up to at some point in time. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of connective pieces certainly moving on when it comes to Star Wars TV. But I thought the huge news here was definitely Ahsoka live action, bringing these Star Wars Rebels to the forefront. So I'm sure there's a bunch of Star Wars Rebel fans that are so pumped right now for this moment. That's not the only thing, though, that they wind up revealing for us, because if you love Ahsoka, if she's a big part of why you enjoy Star Wars fandom, or at least a piece of it, there is certainly more Ahsoka to definitely come, Stuart. We actually wind up getting revealed a new project that Dave Filoni is currently going to be working on, by the name of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. And I do believe that we've got some photos here for you guys. Give me a minute to kind of pull this up. My internet is being a little bit slow, but it is a brand new animated series that we're going to be getting. I believe Dave Filoni is going to be working on it. He mentioned this in his a couple of his. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull it up. This is the artwork here, or at least the logo for Tales of the Jedi. But let's go ahead and get some more detailed information here, Stuart. This actually comes to us from comicbook.com. It says Tales of the Jedi series announced will bring back fan favorite characters. It says Star Wars is ready to bring another original series to life thanks to the most recent order. Following rumors of its announcement, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi has in fact been announced. It says Star Wars Celebration confirmed much for the fans. What does it say? Oh, it says it confirmed as much for the fans, and now they are hunting high and low for details on the project. At the official panel came word that the series will feature 6 episodes and include characters from across the Star Wars prequels, including Qui-Gon Jinn, with Liam Neeson returning to voice the character again. Like, Liam, you coming back to voice an animated character, but we can't even get you an Obi-Wan Kenobi, bro. Like, what is happening right now? It says it will also feature Count Dooku when he's still a Jedi. We also got Mace Windu in here, Anakin Skywalker, and yes, Ahsoka. And he does say, Dave Filoni says, when I fly back and forth working on The Mandalorian, I'd write stories on the plane to pass time. And I got this story. He says, I wanted to explore some characters and base them in ideas I had while making the Clone Wars. That wouldn't necessarily be a full show. The series will be a variety of shorts, with 3 of them specifically focusing on Ahsoka. Others will include episodes set within the Jedi Temple and a reunion between Anakin and Ahsoka. It says the show first hit the radar for fans and rumors in early May. It says, after all, Dark Horse Comics once published a miniseries under the same title, and the anthology was one of the first to dig into the Jedi's Order's long-standing divide in the Sith. I do remember when this rumor first hit, and I did hear Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, and that's exactly where my mindset had originally gone to, was the idea of, well, they're bringing back the Dark Horse Comics kind of storyline, but that's not necessarily the case here. It does show that not only are we getting Tales of the Jedi, but they also showed concept art for you guys if you want to get a glimpse of what an actual young Count Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn certainly look like. This is, in fact, our young Count Dooku when he is, in fact, still a Jedi. I'm loving the blue lightsaber that he's got here. Also, still the similar lightsaber hilt that we see him with during the prequels. But this is him very much as a Jedi, and good old young Qui-Gon Jinn that will, in fact, be here as well. So we got Liam Neeson returning. Here's another fantastic shot for you guys, as it looks like we even have Count Dooku side by side Mace Windu here. We do know that these two characters definitely do have a great past and history with one another, based off of their confrontation from Attack of the Clones, if you will. And then, of course, we've got the Ahsoka story that he's certainly referencing. And I think they even talked about 3 Ahsoka episodes. One's certainly going to be focusing on the relationship between Ahsoka and her mother. So we'll be introduced to her mother in here. And we clearly see Ahsoka or somebody having to face off against a double lightsabered villain in here. So great stuff, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Tales of the Jedi are like, and leave it up to Dave Filoni to literally write just random episodes of Star Wars and stories, and Kathleen Kennedy say, you know what, let's turn that into a show, Dave. And now we've got 6 random stories from Dave Filoni here that I'm sure are going to fit into continuity extremely well. But I'm really looking forward to kind of see a younger version of both of these characters, honestly, Stuart, if I could be completely honest with you. How are you? How excited are you, or what's your anticipation level for this series now that it's been announced? Another animated series.
Super high, man. When it comes to Star Wars and animation, I mean, I think the only time I've really been let down was Star Wars Resistance. But like, you know, you look at Rebels, Clone Wars, Bad Batch, they've all been absolute wins. And then seeing that the art style is going to more resemble the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, that gets me really excited because I just really love that style. You know, I didn't originally, I'm going to be totally honest. You know, one of the things when Clone Wars first came out, you know, like I said, I wasn't really into the Clone Wars when it first came out because I do think it had a rough start. And one of the things that really did have to grow on me, like as I was watching it, was the art style. But now that it has, I love it, and I'm loving that they're bringing it back for the series. And on top of that, it's an anthology series, which I think works so well with Star Wars, because even the Clone Wars, to an extent, was kind of an anthology-esque type of a series, the way like a lot of episodes would be kind of like out of order. And so now that we're getting that again, kind of with Tales of the Jedi, but that's like all it is, and that it can span through any time period as it focuses on different Jedis. I love it, man. I am so hyped for this. And then seeing Dave Filoni is behind this all too. Yeah, I don't think there's anything not to be excited about when it comes to this series. You're muted.
Yeah, even the idea of the animation, I definitely do believe it's still going to have that Clone Wars sort of style animation, which really works for me also. But you're right. The idea of an anthology series, I think, works extremely well for when it comes to Star Wars, just because of the fact we've got so many different time eras that we're jumping in and out of, that it really it definitely allows for them to kind of explore different time periods, different Jedis, and without having to devote maybe an entire series to them, you can still certainly give them the attention that they deserve, just to kind of have a story told periodically here and there for them. Like this is something that I can see not just even as a one-off series, but like 2, 3, 4 different series worth. Maybe you get the opportunity to explore maybe some pivotal moments for the Jedi and Sith by focusing on Jedi that we maybe don't necessarily get the opportunity to see too much of, but there's a very important story that you kind of need to tell. I do think that there's a great place for stories like that. So yeah, I think the anthology sort of format really, really works when you have such a vast timeline to truly explore. So I think that's pretty cool, honestly. And Marcelino does say, he says, I think it's a great idea that they bring back old ideas that never made it to the final draft. Hopefully we get Star Wars What If animated series eventually. I do agree with you in a sense. I don't know if we'll go so far as like a what if, not to say that they won't. I kind of look at like a Star Wars vision sort of like as a what if a little bit. Things that aren't necessarily connected to canon, but just really cool, different kind of concepts and stories. But you're right, Marcelino. I do hope that this is an opportunity where they do get to bring back maybe some older ideas that they didn't get to pull the trigger on, maybe because they felt like, oh, we don't have a full story or a full series to tell, but maybe there's one story in particular that you can highlight and maybe bring that back. So you might be onto something there. But I love the idea and concept of things like that. So that I'm really excited for Tales of the Jedi.
And then the other thing I really hope they do, because they tend to do, Star Wars in general tends to do a really good job of this, is like even when we know someone's going to be like turned to the dark side, if we get like some flashbacks of Count Dooku as a Jedi, I really hope they make us really love him as a Jedi and make it kind of sad knowing what his fate's eventually going to be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they, because you're right. I mean, the idea of maybe giving us a different lighter side, actually becoming a big fan of his, and then seeing the path that he winds up taking, that should be pretty interesting. One other aspect that I will bring up when it comes to animation, because they did announce this one last minute as well. This comes to us from comingsoon.net. For more animation, if you guys are big into Star Wars animation, a Young Jedi Adventures has in fact been announced as well. It says during the celebration, Disney announced a new animated series called Young Jedi Adventures. It's coming to Disney Plus and Disney Junior next year. So this is definitely for the younger ones. It says Young Jedi Adventures will follow original stories of younglings, young Jedi recruits, as they're swept into a world of adventure and begin their journeys on a path to becoming full Jedi Knights. This series will see the younglings grappling with various topics, including compassion, self-discipline, teamwork, patience, and friendships. The series is set to premiere sometime in 2023. And it says the series will see Michael Olsen act as the showrunner. The new series not only marks the first full-length animated series created for a younger audience, but it also marks one of the first series to be set in the High Republic era as well. So a new era in the Star Wars canon that Disney established earlier this year, and it is in fact set about 200 years prior to the Phantom Menace, if you will. So this is very much towards the younger audience, if you will. The gentleman that I saw discussing this at Celebration did mention trying to find like a good entry point for his own children. You know, like everybody always introduces them sort of to the trilogies and the movies and stuff, but he really wanted a great place for when they are younger to indoctrinate them, if you will, into Star Wars, and thought this would be a really great opportunity to. And when you're dealing with younglings, especially during the time period of High Republic, Stuart, you know, for those of you who don't know, in the High Republic comic books, good old Yoda is certainly still around, and he has a training ship that him and a handful, if you will, of younglings and Padawans go on these adventures with Yoda and other Jedi Knights and train them during the process. So there is a part of me that wonders if this animated series will bring Yoda to the forefront to work with these younglings in regards to learning these sort of life lessons. This feels very much like a Star Wars animated for young kid life lessons kind of show. And I think I think if anything, this shows me that there's something in Star Wars for everybody, and a great way for anybody to really be able to jump into this universe. But I thought this was actually pretty cool, maybe because I've got a youngling at home myself, so it hits a little bit different. But what do you think, Stuart? Even though this may or may not be up your alley.
I'm definitely going to check it out, even if it is going for a younger audience. I don't care. It sounds like an intriguing idea, and I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that we haven't really gotten anything like this before. I feel like even before Disney bought Star Wars, like this would have been something right up the alley of plenty of like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network type, content creators. I feel like. And even for George Lucas, because George Lucas, himself thinks that, Star Wars is meant for kids. So it is kind of surprising that he also never came up with the idea of something like this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely going to give it a watch. And if it ends up not being that good, oh well.
Yeah, I am right there with you in the sense of like I am surprised that nobody's thought of this before or that nobody's brought this to the attention to create something like this. Enrique does say, he says his young Jedi adventures will be joining Disney Junior family along with Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Spidey and his amazing
so that
friends.
young of an audience. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's how I mean, when it says Disney Plus and Disney Junior, I think that's probably the age range in which they're going for. I don't know, maybe a little bit older than Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, but I don't know if it's on Junior, maybe that's the age range. I'm not quite sure what the age range for those shows are.
Because like when you said younger audience, I was kind of like thinking Star Wars Resistance, Star Wars Rebels type of audience, but
I think maybe a little younger than that, maybe.
Okay.
I could be wrong though. I could be wrong. We'll see. Yeah, guys. So those were some of the great reveals that we wind up having as of Saturday for you guys when it comes to the Ahsoka series. Yeah, go ahead and certainly let us know your thoughts in regards to some of the animated series that we went ahead and announced for you guys. A glimpse in regards to the Ahsoka live action stuff too. Hopefully we get ourselves that teaser trailer at some point in time here in the next few weeks. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. I really would like to see that as well. But guys, if you have missed some of our other Star Wars Celebration content, we did go ahead and talk a little bit about the Andor trailer. Have you had the opportunity to check out the Andor trailer, Stuart?
Oh yeah.
What did you think of it?
I thought it looked really cool. I love the planet that we're on in the show. How it looks a lot different from like other planets that we've seen in Star Wars. It looks a lot more, like fantasy-esque,
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely does. I'm a big fan of the fact that they got Tony Gilroy as the writer to come back from Rogue One. When you combine him, that's already knowledgeable of the world that they went ahead and created in that movie, and you team him up with Diego Luna, who's very familiar with his own character and learning to explore an early part of his particular life. I think the idea of getting them two together once again. If some people thought Rogue One was easily the best sort of Star Wars that Disney has kind of created, I think we should be really highly anticipating this Andor series as well, because we're getting a lot of the same pieces back for that show. And then what else did they drop? The Skeleton Crew. We got Jude Law that's going to be there. Again, I did go ahead and post a video about that earlier this week as John Watts, the gentleman that just did the Spider-Man trilogy, wind up exiting Fantastic Four for this particular Star Wars project is he's getting himself an actual live action series. But Jude Law has in fact been cast for this show, Skeleton Crew. And it sounds incredible, at least from what I've been seeing so far. The idea of these Padawans, I believe, getting lost on this ship or something along those lines. I'll have to look into the details further. But what did you think about that one, Stuart?
I actually didn't really look into that one too much, so
It's okay.
not too sure.
Yeah, definitely go ahead and check it out whenever you get a chance. But there's a plethora of Star Wars content out there for you guys now to certainly learn about. But with that topic out of the way, Stuart, we will continue along with the world of Star Wars, but going from television series to movies. So let's go ahead and dive into the next topic, because while Star Wars television is certainly taking the world by storm with a couple of great series certainly headed our way, not only this year, but next year as well, it does beg the question, what is certainly going to be happening with Star Wars movies? And believe it or not, Stuart, while I think going into Star Wars Celebration, we knew we were going to get ourselves a live action panel and maybe get a glimpse at some of the television shows. I was kind of hoping that we would get a glimpse into some of the movies a little bit more. And while we definitely did not hear anything new in regards to Rogue Squadron, we didn't get any details in regards to the Taika Waititi movie, even the Kevin Feige movie. We do at least have an idea after Star Wars Celebration, the time period in which these movies will in fact be taking place. So let's go ahead and dive into this, because this comes to us from Kathleen Kennedy, that did a couple of interviews this week. And this comes to us from Empire Magazine, letting us know that Star Wars upcoming movies will be set around the sequel era. This is an exclusive report from Empire Online. It says the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi are imminent. Andor is now officially just months away with its August 31st release date, and there's more to come from The Mandalorian Season 3 next February, followed by Ahsoka. It says, but while most of the Star Wars activity currently in the works right now is taking place in proximity to the original trilogy and the prequel movies, it seems more and more from the sequel era of the Star Wars timeline too, with Kathleen Kennedy stating that the upcoming movies will be set closer to the time of Rey, Poe Dameron, and Kylo Ren, then instead of young Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan. It says, speaking to Empire at Celebration, Kennedy confirmed that the sequel era will be explored in the upcoming movies. She says, we're moving further beyond the existing sequels as we look at our movie space. The sequel era is what we talk a lot about in terms of where we're going with our movies and just how far out that will go. That's very much the space we're concentrating on. The next confirmed Star Wars movie will be Taika Waititi's. It also says, while Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron is currently undated, but still in the works. Kathleen also reiterated that Rian Johnson's trilogy, while announced a long time ago, is not happening anytime soon. She says Rian has such a gigantic success with Knives Out that he's very committed to trying to get that done. So it'll be a while. As you know, we have to work 3 to 5 years in advance of what we're doing. So that's where that sits. So a little bit of an update in regards to Rian Johnson. But she's also mentioned the idea of how they're tackling the slate of Disney Plus and Star Wars. She says, it's an ongoing Star Wars story that we're telling nonstop. That's the way to think about it. And it said, stay tuned for more coming from Celebration in the coming days. So it does feel very much like they're throwing away the idea of trilogies and maybe telling a more connected, nonstop sort of storytelling kind of going forward. We got an update in regards to Rian Johnson's movie. Taika's movie's coming first. Patty Jenkins is certainly still in the works as well. But it does seem as though the movie aspect of things for Star Wars will be taking place around and after the sequel era. And for me, Stuart, I kind of like this idea. I really do. Despite the fact that the sequel trilogy didn't necessarily sit well with me, at least in regards to how it wrapped up. I'm actually a really big fan of the Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, I certainly enjoy, even though that movie certainly has its hiccups and its moments. I love all the Luke, Kylo, and Ren stuff that we wind up getting from The Last Jedi. And for me, The Rise of Skywalker was a little bit of a train wreck, but that's just me. For those of you who certainly did enjoy it, it just did not wrap up that trilogy extremely well, for me at least. But who's to say in 20 years we don't get the new generation of fans that grew up with the sequel trilogy absolutely loving what's been created for them, sort of thing. So we'll see how time winds up treating the sequel trilogy. But if anything, for me, Stuart, a couple things here. If they are ditching the idea of trilogies, this does kind of feel like we're now going the more formulaic route of what Marvel certainly is kind of doing now. The sense of maybe giving us big event films, individual movies that have maybe some interlinking storylines in there somewhere that maybe will eventually lead to a bigger event film, if you will. Maybe a new battle in space or something, or a battle for a planet. Who certainly knows? But I like the idea. I would be interested to see how far away from the sequel trilogy will Taika's movie take place. Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Are they even trying to go a little bit further? It would be interesting to kind of see where the galaxy is at during that particular time period after the events of Rise of Skywalker. And maybe their movies, while probably all being individually solo and having their own stories that they wrap up, I do wonder if it's something that will build to a bigger threat that will eventually lead them to having to do bigger event films, similar like to how Marvel was doing it with Civil War. You know what I mean? Kind of dropping those type of big event films in between, multiverse of madness type of elements, or a No Way Home big event type film. So I think this is a great opportunity. And honestly, I think this is a great place to where if you want to bring back some of these characters, you definitely could. Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. Maybe he winds up finding himself in the Rogue Squadron movie for all we know. We also got, Finn that's certainly out there, played by John Boyega, who has been open to the idea of returning. And I'm pretty sure Daisy Ridley probably wouldn't mind coming back as Rey Skywalker. I haven't seen her doing too much with her career after the Star Wars movies also. But for me, it would be great if we got some of these returning characters to pop up in these movies, and then maybe the idea of seeing Rey again happens in these big event films. But I think this is a good period. You've got the television series that clearly is focusing on the periods between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens during that 30-year period gap. They have all that time to work on TV content. And we also got the time period between the prequels and the originals to focus on. And we've got shows like The Acolyte that are dealing with pre-Phantom Menace as well. So the idea of these movies taking place in a completely different time period, I'm all on board with this, Stuart. But how do you like the sound of Star Wars and Lucasfilm's sort of new strategy going forward with handling these films?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a smart way to kind of organize basically the different eras that they can tackle, because if they do like the sequel kind of era for the new upcoming movies, gives them a lot more flexibility with the writers and the directors without having to constantly be communicating with the people that are writing for the television division of Star Wars. Obviously I hope they communicate enough to make sure there's no continuity errors, but it also means they don't have to worry about constantly having to interweave stories from the TV shows into the movies in order to have it all make sense. So, I'm kind of cool with this. Rise of Skywalker really felt like, there was just a lot to be desired at the very end of it. So if they want to continue after that movie, I feel like there's still a lot of flexibility, because even though technically they ended making it seem like the First Order is finally gone, let's face it, there's much like how we see in episode 6, even though that movie ended with the Empire defeated, they weren't necessarily gone, and I feel like they could go in that exact same direction with the First Order. So you can still have some cool Star Wars stories that don't necessarily have to be tied down by Jedi and the Sith. You could still have kind of a good old Resistance versus the First Order type of storyline, and the only like big difference being that it's no longer out of balance. Like the First Order no longer has more control than the Resistance. Now it's like a little bit more of an even fight, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I would be interested to kind of see what the new threat could potentially be. If that is going to be more, like you stated, remnants of maybe certainly what was left behind, or if something else certainly emerges. But I'm really looking forward to what they wind up coming up with. I think if there's anything that I've learned from Lucasfilm over the past year or two, it definitely feels like they are trying to at least learn from some of their mistakes. I'm sure that they'll probably hit some road bumps and have some hiccups, but the attempts that they're at least trying to make, doing things different, taking their time to focus on content creation and making sure that these stories really work. For me, I'm actually a really big fan of seeing how this might in fact come together. There are a couple of things I personally would like to see. Just some things I want to throw out there. I would love a Ryan Coogler led Star Wars movie with the good old John Boyega maybe coming back. Maybe he'll definitely show Finn the respect that he certainly deserves and giving him a great Star Wars adventure. And for me, Stuart, I'm not gonna lie, I will be interested to see how Lucasfilm reacts to Taika Waititi's Thor Love and Thunder. The only reason why I ask that, or I mentioned that, is, look, Lucasfilm in the past has had issues of dropping directors. Maybe if a movie comes back and that they've recently released and maybe gets some sort of negativity pushed towards it, or if the negativity around it is really loud, maybe they get scared away from the director and maybe go a different direction. And Taika Waititi is a very bold director. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He already pushed against fans when it comes to Thor Ragnarok. Some people weren't necessarily the biggest fan of how comedic it was. Thor Love and Thunder, I think, is going to push the envelope even further. And I am kind of curious if people will see that movie and all of a sudden think to themselves, that type of level of humor and storytelling doesn't belong in Star Wars. We got these gatekeepers and shit that want to like tell me what is Star Wars and what isn't. I'm not gonna lie when I say there is a part of me that wonders whether or not people will get weary or worried about his Star Wars movie that he's going to be making. What do you think, though?
Um, oh man, I think that that's actually kind of a very reasonable concern, because it's happened quite a few times now. Because you've had it with the guy that was supposed to direct episode 9. I don't even remember why they
Oh,
ended up
Colin
like,
Trevorrow. I
yeah, I
think he
don't.
had the Book of Henry, I think, was his movie that wind up not doing very well at the box office. And I don't know if that's what
Oh.
scared them or not, but that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that could be it actually. But then, like, the other one was like Kathleen Kennedy, where like, or no, sorry, Patty Jenkins, where like they seem to really be hyping her up as like with her new Star Wars movie. But then, like a couple days after Wonder Woman 84 came out, suddenly it's like, yeah, this movie's not really a priority anymore. So
It was weird, right?
yeah, exactly. So I think it's a possibility. I really hope that doesn't happen, because I did like the one episode of Mandalorian that he directed. In fact, I
Yes.
actually think like it was funny because story wise, I think it worked really well for a Star Wars kind of story. But I do have to admit, like some of the dialogue, it worked. But dear God, it kind of came off as Robot Chicken Star Wars. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those parodies,
Yeah.
but like when you had like the two stormtroopers talking with each other about how like Moff Gideon is just like offing other stormtroopers, and just the way they're talking so casually about it felt very Robot Chicken to me. But it also didn't feel like out of line with Star Wars. So if he wants to bring that humor to the big screen, I think he can make it work. If any director out there can make that type of humor work in an actual canonical Star Wars movie, it's Taika Waititi.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, man. I really do. I think he has a great. He does have the ability to have a great balance in regards to the drama along with his humor. But he definitely has a unique take in how he certainly approaches things. And despite the humor that we saw in the finale of The Mandalorian, it was still a great episode. He did a really fantastic job with it. So I'm really looking forward to it. But guys, let me know your thoughts. When you hear Kathleen Kennedy talk about this, that the stories are really going to be nonstop forward pushing, being set sort of in the sequel era, if you will, or post sequel era. How far out do you want these movies to be from the sequel trilogy? Certainly go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts. And do you appreciate sort of that new strategy that they have? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And Stuart, if you could do me a big favor, man, also, as we change course here, we're getting a lot of spam comments in these live chats. Can you keep an eye on just trying to report or remove them whenever you can? I'm trying to do my certainly my best as well. I don't know if there's like a report section or whatever the case may be, but we are getting flooded with some spam today. Oh, I think you're blocked. I think you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll keep blocking them as they come up.
Yeah, hopefully they get the message. All right, guys. And with that out of the way, we will go ahead and transition over to our next story as we dive into the world of Willow, believe it or not. Oh, you know what, Stuart? I totally... Damn it, man. I meant to go ahead and rewatch this trailer today. I didn't get the opportunity to rewatch this damn Willow trailer. I literally watched the Willow movie last night in order to go ahead and prep for this story. But coming right out of the Star Wars celebration, going back to that live panel, believe it or not, they actually gave us our very first glimpse into the upcoming Willow television series on Disney Plus, Stuart. This was a fantastic movie. I absolutely loved growing up watching this movie. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to check out Willow, please do. But they did go ahead and put together a teaser trailer to me, which some of the things that I really enjoyed. I do love the fact that we are getting ourselves another team that's being put together. They surrounded Willow with a team to go ahead and help find the child, some humans and some parents to go ahead and give them out to, right? Their village put together like a makeshift group of adventurers to go out on on their mission, if you will. And the fact that we're getting to see a band of people being brought together, I don't know if this feels a little bit more Lords of the Rings to me in that regards, but I absolutely love this trailer. Visually, it looks stunning. Getting the opportunity to see Warwick Davis reprise his role as Willow was fantastic. To see that he's even grown a little bit more in his sorcery. I love the cool new staff that he certainly has in store as well. It looks fantastic, but I can't wait to see how this really comes together. I believe the young lady from the Solo movie, the redheaded girl that wound up playing one of the main characters with the mask on it. She revealed herself at the very end, but she was also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and she's going to be in this particular series as well. Visually, it looks stunning. There's even a lot of puppetry in here, it feels like. I wonder if they went back to the camp of like Jim Henson and maybe the people that helped worked on the Dark Crystal and stuff. I mean, they're really pushing their imagination and what they can certainly do in this world of Willow. And I can't wait to see this brought to life once again, man. This is definitely a world that I'm ready to go ahead and live in once again. But what did you think about the trailer? If you've had the opportunity to check it out for yourself, Stuart, I meant to rewatch it again, but I didn't get the opportunity to, unfortunately.
So I'm probably going to get attacked in the comments for this, which I probably deserve, but I actually haven't seen the original Willow movie. But I will definitely watch it before the show comes out because this show looks freaking epic. I saw the trailer. Love everything I've seen from it. I think visually it looks freaking stunning. I love that a lot of it is done with a lot of practical effects in there.
Mm-hmm.
The puppetry looks so good. It kind of reminds me of the Netflix Dark Crystal series. I don't know if you've had a chance to check that out, but that's
So
also
good.
a really cool fantasy series. But yeah, nothing but positive vibes for me. You mentioned the one woman with the red hair. Yeah. because like, yeah, I think you were right. She's been in both Solo and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So like Disney must really like her. In fact, actually, you know what would be like perfect for her next role? If they ever wanted to bring in some Pixar characters in live action, I feel like she could work really well if they had her as the live action version of what's her name from Brave?
Oh yes, yeah, dude, that would be pretty fantastic. That would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
But one of the scenes you mentioned in this trailer, the idea of like the practical effects, there was a great shot. I think the gentleman from that played Flash that played Flash in the Spider-Man movies. I think he's in this too.
Yeah.
There's a great shot of him like petting or being confronted by like a giant fish that comes out of the lake or whatever the case may be. It looked really cool, man. And I'm a big fan of like just the fantastical and this type of storytelling, and even to get an opportunity to see some of the returning characters from the movie that have come back and looked, that have grown up, that are older also. It's really great to kind of see those connective tissues and those connective pieces being brought back to this Willow TV series. So yeah, we watched the movie again yesterday. I definitely would recommend you certainly check it out before tackling this series, because I'm sure there are certainly some connective pieces in there, Stuart. But I don't know what your childhood was like, man, but you missed out on Willow, bro. You missed out on Willow.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I will make up to my childhood by watching it, sometime in the next couple days.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, guys, listen, if you've had the opportunity to check out the Willow TV series trailer, what did you guys certainly think about it? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And are you like Stuart? Have you not checked out the Willow movie? And if not, why haven't you guys? Get on it. No, I think Willow growing up, I don't know if it was like a niche, market. I don't know if a lot of people certainly knew about Willow back in the day. But I think if you came across it or ran across it at your video store as a child, you were very happy you did, I think. But yeah, guys, go ahead and certainly let us know your thoughts. And with that, Stuart, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic today. As J.J. Abrams is in the news, guys, we've got two aspects of J.J. Abrams we're going to be talking about today. Both topics I'm really excited to go ahead and dive into, especially because when it comes to this first one in the world of Speed Racer, ladies and gentlemen, it seems as though J.J. Abrams, along with his production company Bad Robot, is in fact going to be tackling this franchise. And I think me and Stuart will both agree that this most recent Speed Racer movie by the Wachowskis was a very underrated masterpiece, if you ask me. I personally love it. I would highly recommend people certainly go check it out. It may not be necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but there is something very special about the Speed Racer movie that I found really enjoyable, honestly. So the fact that we're going from that world into the television series world, handled by none other than J.J. Abrams and his Bad Robot production company, I'm actually kind of pumped and curious to see what this is going to be like. And if it's anything like the article we're about to read talks about, we might have something really special on our hands here, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive into it. The question is, if this series makes it to see the light of day. So let's go ahead and dive into this, and we'll let you in on exactly what's going on with J.J. Abrams and his involvement in this. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. It says the Speed Racer live action TV series from J.J. Abrams in the works at Apple TV. It says the project, which sources say has received a straight-to-series order at the streamer, hails from writers Hiram Martinez and Ron Fitzgerald. Go Speed Racer, go. I love that theme, man. It does say that live action scripted TV series based on the beloved manga and animated show is in the works. It says sources say that Hiram Martinez, who wrote Snowpiercer along with the movie Get Shorty, another great movie, is set to co-write the project and serve as showrunner, as his exciting take on the source material is said to have impressed Apple, Bad Robot, and Warner Brothers Discovery. It says Ron Fitzgerald, who works with Abram on HBO's Westworld, is the other co-writer and showrunner. and it says Abrams and Bad Robot are set to executive produce. It says that sources say the live action series has been in works for years and stems from the overall deal that Warner Brothers TV had with Bad Robot. We went ahead and announced that a few months ago, if not sometime last year. It says the show landed at Apple some time ago and has been in the process of meeting and hiring its co-writers in recent months. As sources note, the development process has been excruciatingly slow. So they've had this in the works for years. J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot have gotten their money, I'm assuming, in regards to development. But while it's been in works for years, hasn't really gotten anywhere. The fact that they're still doing meetings and hirings of co-writers years into the process of this is kind of troublesome, though, for some people. But it does say the Speed Racer creator, Yoshida, that was adapted back in 1960s. It does say that that he's actually on board with this, I believe. Let me see. Where did I? It says oh, never mind. It says Tatsunoki Production following a string of lawsuits. It does say that the production company is believed to have blessed the Apple's Speed Racer take. So yeah, it says as of December 13th, the worldwide rights to the beloved title about the professional racetrack revered back to that Tatsunoko production company. And they are actually even giving the blessing to Apple for making the Speed Racer series as well. It says Speed Racer is among the scores of projects that Abrams has in the works as part of his $250 million overall deal with Warner's. And there's other couple projects that he's certainly working on as well. But so yeah, there is some Abrams is certainly in some hot water for certainly taking pretty long with this Speed Racer series. But it seems everybody is certainly on board with this take of the live action series. So let me go ahead and throw this over to you, Stuart. You hear this. This is, in fact, in development. J.J. Abrams and them plan on trying to create a Speed Racer series for Apple TV. Where's your excitement level, and what do you think this article means in regards to how long it's taken?
Excitement level, not necessarily the highest, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to check it out. I'm definitely kind of curious to see how a Speed Racer live action series is going to do. I feel like as much as I love the original, or not the original, sorry, the 2008 Speed Racer movie, to me, it felt like one of those like not necessarily a one and done, but it felt like one of those like perfect movies that just, I don't think you could recreate that magic even if you tried. So for the show, I really hope they kind of take the Speed Racer into a like IP into a very different direction. And with it being on Apple TV, I'm sure there's someone who's Apple TV I can steal from, because I currently don't have it, but I'm sure I can find a user that I can borrow their account from. I think overall, I think it seems pretty all right so far from the news we've heard. As for J.J. taking forever on this, I think, as we're going to kind of discuss when it comes to the next part of this article, I think J.J. might be a little bit in over his head in terms of how much he attempted to really put on his plate with all the IPs that he's taken from both Apple and Warner Brothers. So that's the one thing that's kind of worrying. When you have too much going on, you end up putting less effort into everything you have. So that's kind of the one major thing that's worrying me about the show. If it ends up being kind of half-assed, I won't be too surprised, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I will be really interested as we dive into the next article too. What, if anything, survives what's happening here with Bad Robot, in the sense of, will everything that J.J. Abrams is working on make it to see the light of day? And it is one of those things that, when speaking about the Speed Racer live action, this is definitely something that I want to see. I do hope that this is something that's focused, that their attention is really on. If they've got a lot of different companies that are truly behind this and put their blessing on it, and really love the take that J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot has, along with the writers that they've wind up bringing on board, then I do think that if there's any emphasis on keeping anything around, it probably should be the Speed Racer television series. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard nothing but really great things in regards to a lot of Apple TV series that they've created. They definitely pay attention to detail. The production value is certainly there. And while I'm a big fan too of the 2008 Speed Racer film, this is somebody else giving their vision and their idea of what Speed Racers should certainly be. So I'm not going to be going into this Speed Racer series with the expectation of it being exactly like the movie, but I would like to see visually and character-wise what they're able to certainly bring to the table to make Speed Racer feel more appealing, if not as appealing as the movie itself certainly was. So I will be interested to see its balance in tone, and visually and storyline wise, what they're certainly going to create for us. But it is frustrating to see that Abrams has had all this time, and it feels like it's barely gotten anywhere. But I do think if there is any series that might make the cut or certainly stick around, if there are any changes to what J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot has, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's Speed Racer. I really hope that this does get the opportunity to see the light of day. But let's talk a little bit further, Stuart, about J.J. Abrams in regards exactly to, I don't want to say the hot water that he finds himself in, but when you have a company like Warner Brothers Discovery giving you $200 million just before this merger wind up happening with Discovery, that's a lot of money that they've thrown out on the table. And so to have now, as we've seen in the past couple of weeks, Stuart, the new CEO, David Zaslav, has been chopping things at the knees, man, getting rid of some things that maybe haven't begun filming, that are still very much into that pre-production period, to go ahead and certainly cut cost. And so it seems very much like, Stuart, that the big deal that J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot landed is now coming under some scrutiny, and they definitely have some eyes on J.J. Abrams to certainly see what's going on here with all this money that we've given you. Have we given you too much money, J.J. Abrams? Let's see what's going on here, Stuart, because you might be right. Maybe J.J. has taken on a little bit too much. But this is from Deadline.com saying that J.J. Abrams, Demi Mondi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is in jeopardy over budget drama as Bad Robot's overall deal faces scrutiny by Warner Brothers Discovery. It says J.J. Abrams' ambitious HBO sci-fi drama series, Demi Mondi, has hit a major roadblock in its long journey to the screen. The issues related to the show's price come amid talk of a potential reevaluation of the massive deal Abrams' Bad Robot has at Warner Brothers for film, TV, gaming, and digital content, as the new Warner Brothers Discovery is scrutinizing every aspect of the assets that they took over. They're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb to see exactly how Warner Brothers is diversifying, or at least where they're putting all their money towards, making sure that these projects are being properly handled fiscally, if you will. It says brought by the network 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Stuart, brought to the network 4 years ago with the straight to order series, Demi Mondi is still in early pre-production. There's nothing straight to series order for a 4-year production. Like, what is going on here? It says Demi Mondi is still in early production, but major budget issues are threatening to derail it. According to the source, the studios on the project, Warner Brothers Television and HBO, have been trying to rein in costs, but Bad Robot has kept firm on their proposed budget, said to be in the mid $200 million range, and would not agree to a reduction below that. While current talks between Warner Brothers and Abrams are focused on Demi Mondi, we hear a broader discussion about Bad Robot's deal is expected amid a big across-the-board close examination. It says, we hear the veteran TV executive has a good relationship with Abrams and is in regular communication with him and the rest of Warner Brothers' top talent as he familiarizes himself with the workings of the film and TV studio he now oversees. It says Bad Robot's agreement is not expected to be the only big Warner Brothers pack to go under a microscope, as they are really looking at curb spending and shave off about $3 billion in savings after this particular merger. So they're definitely in talks to try and save some money and when it comes to creating this stuff. So over budget when it comes to Demi Mundi here, 4 years in the works and still in early production. This feels very eerily similar to the slow pace in which what do you call it? The Speed Racer is certainly going. And they even reference the idea too that, you know, J.J. Abrams, there's also a slew of other projects that he has in development too, Stuart, right? He's got the Madame Xanadu, which is a DC project. He's got the Constantine reboot for HBO Max we're supposed to be getting. If you recall, they even announced him doing a Batman Cape Crusader animated series too. I mean, the list goes on in regards to what they have on their plate. And it does say, according to sources, his Zaslav and J.J. Abrams team are committed at least to staying in the business of J.J. Abrams. But I gotta think that that's pretty frustrating, though, despite him having a great relationship with JJ and then being in constant communication, to know that you've given somebody so much money and you've yet to see the fruition of all that spending certainly happening. What do you think is maybe an end result that we might see when it comes to Warner Brothers Discovery and J.J. Abrams, Stuart?
Probably that we're not going to see Warner Brothers Discovery working with J.J. Abrams again after this.
Oh, you don't think so?
I mean, it'll either be that, or JJ is gonna have to fix it up, or get like all these projects going like immediately, like within the next year or two, which I'm not sure if that's going to be happening given how much he has on his plate. And you know, I totally get, you know, Discovery's frustration with him, because you know, if you're giving someone $200 million, you know, with all these IPs, and nothing's like come out of it so far. All they've gotten, I think in the article, they say that all they've gotten in terms of the DC content, the Justice League Dark stuff, have been like a couple of rough draft scripts, and that's about it. Yeah, I think Discovery has every right to be really annoyed about this investment. I mean, you know, me personally, I love like, you know, going through different DC or Marvel characters and thinking, oh, which director would be perfect, you know, for this movie and that movie? How would I bring these kind of characters to life? And I do that for free and for fun. I don't get paid $200 million to think of that. I do it because, you know, it's just a fun hobby of mine. You know, so if he's getting paid this much money, you know, I feel like, yeah, even if you have too much on your plate, that's not really a good excuse, because it's $200 million. All right. And if you did, you know, you shouldn't have taken that deal up to begin with. But I guess we'll still have to see. Like, there's still, like, I think a couple more years left on his contract, so maybe he's gonna pull like an amazing, you know, rabbit out of his hat. Who knows? But currently now, with what's going on, I definitely don't blame Discovery, or specifically like Warner Brothers Discovery, for being a little bit or a bit irritated from the lack of, like, you know, content essentially.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. It's definitely been a very slow burn when it comes to what J.J. Abrams is certainly creating. And again, you know, mergers tend to be the death of a lot of projects, man, when it comes to them wanting to go ahead and cut costs. So I'm under the impression that when it comes to JJ and Bad Robot, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there are some projects that unfortunately do get cut. What or downsized, maybe. I don't know how that figures in with the deal. But if they are as good friends or as good of a relationship as they say Zaslav has with J.J. Abrams. Maybe there is some sort of understanding they can come to, like, hey, JJ, we're giving you a bunch of money. Production's taking forever. We do need to cut costs. Like, what projects are you absolutely married to certainly making this work? I do hope that the Speed Racer winds up hitting us. I actually would rather take the Batman Cape Crusader animated series over, say, what he's trying to create with Justice League Dark, honestly. I would be fat. I mean, he also has this Superman movie that I think that they're trying to work on as well, from Bad Robot. So there's a ton of projects, man, but there are certainly some I wouldn't mind seeing cut in favor of others if it's going to help Warner Brothers Discovery out. And while I wouldn't mind seeing JJ tackle the Justice League Dark, I don't know why, Stuart. There's a part of me that still has faith that maybe one day we'll get Guillermo del Toro to come back and work on Justice League Dark. Maybe I'm holding on to the past way too much in that regards, but just based off of what del Toro has done in his career, I really would like to see maybe Zaslav reach out to him and try and create something for their DCEU kind of going forward. But I do think some things are going to be getting cut and canceled here.
Well, with J.J. Abrams, his deal with DC, from what I understand, I think he's only there as oops, sorry, let me do a quick block. All right. Sorry, more spam in the chat.
It's okay. Sometimes it has an issue.
For some reason, it's not letting me block this one.
That's okay. I'll try.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, I think he's on board as a producer. I don't think he has any plans on like actually directing a lot of these projects. So the idea of Guillermo del Toro coming in for a Justice League Dark movie or any kind of movie within like that kind of like corner of the DC universe, I think it's still a huge possibility. It's really just a matter of whether or not he wants to do it and whether or not Warner Brothers is willing to pay, like, because obviously him being a talented director, he's going to ask for a lot of money. So hopefully Warner Brothers is willing to give him that money.
Yeah, I definitely would be interested too. And I kind of curious if maybe Zaslav feels that maybe even some of the HBO content that he's creating as series maybe might even want to approach it and turn it to more a theatrical release or something like that, because of just the direction that I feel like he's been talking about how to handle some of his DC characters, really believing that they're the key to tapping into really making Warner Brothers Discovery kind of succeed. So we'll see, but we'll definitely go ahead and keep you guys posted in regards to some of J.J. Abrams' series and things that he has in development. And we'll see if the merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery, cancels another series life away from us. But we'll definitely go ahead and certainly keep you guys posted. But let us know your thoughts. Is there any J.J. Abrams project that is still in production that you're really anticipating and certainly hope makes to see the light of day? Definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, we will go ahead and tackle our next topic for you guys as we transition a little bit more over into television here, and we get into our True Detective bag, Stuart. I'm actually a really big fan of the True Detective series. They've had 3 seasons so far, 2 hits, maybe 1 miss to me, honestly. Season 1 focused really heavily. I think we had Matthew McConaughey along with, was it Willie
Harrelson.
Yeah, Willie
Right.
Harrelson, I believe that's his name, right? And then we season 2, I think, was Colin Farrell and somebody else. I can't remember who was the other big star in that. I think Amy Adams
Vince
might have been
Vaughn,
it.
right?
Vince Vaughn, that's right. He was in there too. And then last year, wind up seeing season 3, wind up seeing Mahershala Ali as the main detective in there. Another fantastic story. I'm a big fan of seasons 1 and 3. I did kind of fall asleep a little bit when it comes to season 2, but I've loved the storylines, the focus, the incredible stories that they certainly have, and especially just during this time period, I think when like serial killers and anything crime focused is usually a win for most people in here that love a good crime and thriller mystery. True Detective season 4 is certainly on the way. And Stuart, we got our very first casting announcement from this season, and I am blown away by the talent that they have, in fact, acquired, as it seems as though Jodie Foster, the star herself, Jodie Foster, is set to star in True Detective season 4 for HBO. And if you've seen her in Silence of the Lamb, if you've seen her in any of her other movies that she's certainly done, this feels like home for Jodie Foster when it comes to being a part of a project. But she is set to star in True Detective season 4. It says the Oscar-winning actress makes her long-awaited return to television in a series regular role. Jodie Foster is returning to TV. They're even making a big deal out of it, considering the fact that she's usually handling movies. But nowadays, Stuart, movie budgets are really attached to series these days. I mean, the type of quality that you get is really unmatched these days, especially for HBO Max. But it says the Oscar-winning actress and director, following a prolonged round of negotiations, has been tapped to star in the 4th season of True Detective. Foster will also be credited as an executive producer of the anthology. Season 4 of True Detective, dubbed Night Country, remains in development stage through Foster's casting. Currently makes a formal series green light all but a given. It says, here's how they describe True Detective Night Country. This is the synopsis. It says, when the long winter night falls in Ennis, Alaska, the 6 men that operate the Salal Arctic Research Station vanish without a trace. To solve the case, Detective Liz Danvers and Evangeline Navarro will have to confront the darkness they carry in themselves and dig into the haunted truths that lie beneath, buried under the eternal ice. So I'm assuming she plays the Liz Danvers characters. Yeah, it says Foster will play Liz Danvers. Additional details about the character were not immediately available. So I will be interested to kind of see who her co-host or her co-star, who's going to be playing opposite of her, will be. They have not, in fact, released the casting for that as of right now. A premiere date for True Detective 4 has not been determined, as the season still remains in developmental stage. So they haven't even gotten to filming as of yet, but they have, after long negotiations, brought on Jodie Foster to play Liz Danvers in True Detective season 4, titled Night Country. Look, I'm gonna be honest, Stuart. The synopsis alone captured my attention. Jodie Foster in a True Detective series set in Alaska, one of the creepiest places to live, especially at night when you practically don't get as much sun during like half the year. It feels like you want to talk about just an eerie sort of vibe that can really come from True Detective. I think season 4 has the makings to be something rather incredible, honestly. And I cannot wait. Jodie Foster is such an amazing character. She just brings a gravitas to herself when she's on screen. So captivating anytime that she is in a scene. But I think this just feels right up her alley. And I think she's going to make the most of it here when it comes to True Detective season 4. But what's your relationship with Jodie Foster? Are you a big fan of hers, Stuart? And what's your level of excitement knowing she's going to be attached to this project?
Yeah, extremely excited. I feel like she fits into the tone of True Detective perfectly, because True Detective itself feels very tonally similar to Silence of the Lambs in terms of like how dark they're going to go with a lot of the killings, and in terms of the detective aspect as well. I honestly haven't seen past season 1 of True Detective. That was the only one I watched. I hadn't seen seasons 2 or 3 yet, but I have been like, it's been in the back of my head. I just haven't like really got around to getting to it quite yet, but it is definitely something I will probably be checking out before season 4 comes out. But yeah, overall, the it taking place in Alaska, bringing in Jodie Foster, I think this is going to be another big hit for the series for sure.
I would recommend definitely checking out season 3. If you want to skip season 2 or maybe revisit season 2 on your own time, I certainly would. That's the good thing about True Detective, is that since it is such an anthology series, each series, I believe, is his own kind of overall story. Not too many connective pieces, if anything. I mean, maybe there might be like an Easter egg or two within these series that might reference other detectives or other cases from the past. But if you're really looking forward to the Blade that's starring Mahershala Ali, if you're not too familiar with any other work that Ali has been in, I would definitely recommend checking out True Detective season 3. I think it's a fantastic season, so I would recommend that for you, Stuart.
All right.
But yeah, guys, go ahead and certainly let me know your thoughts. Sorry, I think I got like a mosquito bite or something, so I'm just scratching my arm. But if you guys definitely want to know your guys' thoughts, Jodie Foster coming out of movies, tackling a television series that's been quite some years for her. How excited are you to see her returning to television and not just TV, but joining True Detective? Do you think it's a good fit for her as early in the development as this certainly is? Go ahead and definitely let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And
I
last,
have a
go
I
ahead,
have a prediction. I
go for it.
think at the end of the series, the killer is going to turn out to be a very known serial killer from Florida who's just really good at hiding his tracks and changing his identity, named Dexter. And I think she is going to turn out to have been in witness protection, and so she's going to turn out to have been the same character from Silence of the Lambs. So True Detective season 4 is secretly a Silence of the Lamb Dexter crossover.
You heard it here first, guys. You heard it here first. I love it. I love it. But yeah, guys, go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat. That would be pretty trippy, man, if that came to fruition. I'm actually not a fan of the Dexter series, believe it or not. I know a lot of people are. It was just too weird. I don't want to say weird, but the lead actor truly did his job in creeping me out, man. Like
Yeah.
anytime I see him, it just gives me an uneasy feeling about him, and I just cannot watch the episode, man. I can't do it.
So it was season 5, I think, when I finally fell off the show, and it wasn't because it was getting worse, but it was because it wasn't like getting any better, essentially, and it was like repeating itself.
Okay.
And it got to the point where it's like there's so much evidence pointing directly at Dexter, and he's in a police precinct the entire time. But like, you only have one cop, or sorry, you have one in the beginning, obviously, but then you only have one cop later on who actually kind of sees the evidence here and is like, guys, anyone else seeing like a big connection here with Dexter? And all the other cops are just like looking at him like he's crazy, And I'm not even talking about like Dexter's weird mannerisms, because that's actually kind of
Super.
normal from what I hear for a forensic scientist. I'm talking about, though, like there's a lot of evidence that you see like in later seasons pointing directly at him, and it's just so weird that like very few people ever piece it together, and that's what kind of made me give up on the show, really.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. Yeah, I tried to watch it first season, man. I just could not pick up on it after a while, but I'm glad that you stuck with it certainly for as long as you could. But we'll see. We'll see if we have a Dexter True Detective crossover this season. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, guys, go ahead and let us know your thoughts in regards to True Detective season 4. Shout out to Dwayne Davis for certainly coming through today, man. So thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. And then we got one more topic, guys, that we're going to go ahead and wrap up on before we get into your guys' live viewer questions. And Stuart, this should be a fun one.
Oh
This should
yeah.
be an odd one, to certainly say the least. Because look, man, everybody loves Christopher Robin's Winnie the Pooh. I mean, look, I think we all grew up with Winnie the Pooh as a kid from the animated series, whether you had yourself some plush dolls of Piglet or Eeyore or the owl himself, or maybe even Winnie with his tub of honey that he used to eat off of. But Winnie the Pooh, I think, definitely has attached itself to a lot of our childhood. Disney has done a fantastic job with that franchise for the years, but believe it or not, Stuart, they no longer own the copyrights to Winnie the Pooh, and Winnie the Pooh has officially become a public domain name, which means Anybody can certainly create a Winnie the Pooh movie, television series if they want to. It just can't have the likeness, if I'm not mistaken, of what it is that Disney Plus or Disney themselves has certainly created. So if you could come out with a fresh take for a Winnie the Pooh character, you can create anything that you certainly want. And there's a plethora of different characters that belong to public domain. I'm sure Stuart probably knows more than I certainly do. But, you know, Winnie the Pooh hasn't been in public domain very long, and somebody has already taken advantage of this, Stuart, as we're apparently set to go ahead and get ourselves a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. That's right. You heard me correctly, Stuart and everybody else. A Winnie the Pooh horror movie. So, can we deep dive into this real quick? And exactly what the hell are we getting? So let's check this out. This is from Variety.com. And already we get to see Winnie the Pooh in his crazed new form. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. The director teases a slasher film plot. Pooh and Piglet go on a rampage. This should be an interesting one, Stuart. It says A.A. Milne's original Winnie the Pooh stories only lapsed into public domain 5 months ago, but the tubby little cubby has already made his foray into slasher films. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey wrapped earlier this month, and the first stills show a demonic Pooh and Piglet about to pounce on a scantily clad young woman relaxing in a hot tub have already sent the internet on fire. And this is the photo that they're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It says, in an interview with Variety, director Rhys Waterfield, who is in post-production on 4 other films, including, check out the names of these guys, Fire NATO and Demonic Christmas Tree, said the response to the stills have been absolutely crazy. He says, because of all the press and stuff, we're just going to start expediting the editing and get it through post-production as fast as we can, but also make sure it's still good. It's gonna be a high priority, is what they state. They also go on to say here, it says, according to Waterfield, who also wrote and co-produced the film, Winnie and Pooh, Blood and Honey, we'll see Pooh and Piglet as the main villains going on a rampage after being abandoned by that bastard college-bound Christopher Robin. It says Christopher Robin is pulled away from them and he's not giving them food. It's made Pooh and Piglet life quite difficult. Because they've had to fend for themselves so much, they've essentially become feral. So they've gone back to their animal roots. They're no longer tame. They're like a vicious bear and pig who want to go around and try and find prey. And then it also says the film was shot for this. Here we go. This gives us a really good idea of what we're getting ourselves into, Stuart. The film was shot in 10 days. In 10 days in England, not far from the Ashdown Forest. It says, although Waterfield declined to reveal the budget of the slasher flick, he said audiences shouldn't expect this to be a Hollywood-level production. So don't expect that at all. It says, given the challenge, given the premise, the biggest challenge was balancing the line between horror and comedy. He says, when you try and do a film like this, and it's a really wacky concept, it's very easy to go down a route where nothing is scary, and it's just really ridiculous and really stupid. And we wanted to go between the two. So yeah, I think that's a really great example as to what type of movie we're getting here, Stuart. So I'm kind of under the impression we probably shouldn't take this very seriously. It feels like the filming was certainly just 10 days long. The budget for this, he didn't even want to express, because I'm assuming it's probably nothing. But even he says, do not expect a Hollywood level production here. So I'm definitely not going into this thinking this is going to be the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to certainly say the least. But I kind of dig the concept, Stuart. I'm not going to lie, man. I am certainly going to go ahead and give this movie a shot, just keeping my expectations rather low here. But Winnie the Pooh and Piglet on the rampage, Stuart, what are your thoughts, man, in regards to this? And how excited are you to check out this movie?
Oh man, you know me, dude. I love really bad horror movies, so
I
this
thought this
is
was right
like
up your alley,
perfect.
bro.
This
Yeah.
is perfectly right up my alley. In fact, like I can guarantee you, if this wasn't one of our articles we were tackling, this would have definitely been my honorable mention. And I love the idea of like, now that it's public domain, we can now have fun like with like these type of characters, put them in like an environment that you normally would never have actually like seen them in. Disney kind of did that with Christopher Robin, or at least like the
Yeah.
beginning like third of Christopher Robin, where they had like a very kind of grounded, kind of more serious, down to earth kind of story with Winnie the Pooh just happening to be in it. So now seeing this though, a complete 180 on the character, like going from just that lovable bear that we all grew up with, the one that, some kids I know would snuggle with a Winnie the Pooh, stuffed animal, because it would give you that mentality that, hey, he'll protect you from any monsters coming into your bedroom trying to kidnap you or whatever. And now he's gone from that to being the monster in your closet. So oh my God, dude. This is so bizarre. And I'm so happy it's happening. And it's probably going to be a terrible film, but I don't care. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, I do expect this to be an absolutely atrocious movie. But the concept alone is so fascinating. I got to check this out for myself. Marcelino and a couple other people, Marcelino said, my mom heard about the Winnie the Pooh horror film. She immediately hated it. She says the childhood is ruined. There was somebody else that said they didn't want to. I don't want to see the Enrique. Here we go. I don't want to see that Winnie the Pooh horror movie. I like the Disney childhood better. So a lot of people don't want their childhood necessarily attacked when it comes to this movie. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I think had this movie not gotten any press, people probably wouldn't even know this movie existed. Just because of the fact of how low budget it certainly is. I don't think this is. I don't even think this movie was meant to even get that type of traction, but it did, and the attention is certainly now on it, and people are certainly fascinated by it. And my thing is, I don't think this is going to ruin anybody's childhood. I mean, it's not like the Winnie the Pooh series that we got as kids isn't still out there. It's not like they've completely removed it from history or broadcast from anywhere. So we can always go back to that Winnie the Pooh if we want to. But it's, for me, I find it interesting that now that it is public domain, anybody can really take their own Winnie the Pooh stories and create certainly what they want. And this is such a vast departure from what we've gotten before. Again, it's probably going to be absolutely terrible, but I got to give them kudos for taking this crazy and wacky leap to create something so unique like this. So we'll see if this begins the Winnie the Pooh horror flicks going forward. If people will be like, you know what, maybe this guy was onto something, and maybe Hollywood does tackle it at some point in time, and it becomes bigger than it's probably has any business of being, man. But I am kind of curious, what other public domain characters do they have out there after you say what you're gonna say?
Well,
Do you
they
know?
did something just like this a couple years ago, back in 2019, with the Banana Splits, which was one of my dad's favorite shows growing up when he was a kid. So when they made like when they made that into a horror movie, he was definitely like, "What? No, my childhood, right in the childhood."
I love it, man. I love it. But yeah, guys, go ahead and let us know your thoughts in regards to this Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey horror film. Is this something that you're interested in certainly tackling? Is it just too wacky of a concept for you to wrap your head around and just don't want anything to do with it? Definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And who knows, maybe when the movie drops, if we can find it, maybe Stuart will do a nice little review for us. So we'll see. I think this movie is going to be like 40 minutes, man. I don't even think this is going to be a long movie at all.
Oh yeah, it's definitely got to be a short movie if they filmed it in 10 days, and that's also why I'm not expecting it to be good, because it's really hard to make a good movie on a low budget if you're shooting it fast. You can either shoot a movie really fast, but you have to have a lot of money, or you can shoot it on a low budget, but you have to do it really slowly. It's really hard to make a good movie if you're not doing it either of those two ways,
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying there, man. So we'll see here. We'll see what happens at the end of the day with this particular upcoming project. But yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted. All right. And
The
with
bots keep coming,
the
like
bots
in
keep coming, man.
the live chat. Like they're not taking the hint from the many other times we blocked them.
But with that out of the way, we will in fact be moving on to our next topic. Well, not next topic, but our next aspect of this week's show. And what time is it, Stuart?
It is time for live viewer questions.
And we definitely have a plethora of them to certainly get through for you guys today. So let's go ahead and bring them up. I love how people keep. Okay, so I'm really starting to think that half of these people are in fact bots, Stuart. Just because, like, I've got so many questions all coming in at the same timestamp exactly,
Oh, okay.
unless my emails just kind of are thrown in as a batch. So I'm really starting to think that half our viewers at this point are just bots.
I mean, maybe not bots, but like probably sock puppeted accounts, I wouldn't doubt.
Yeah, I think you're right there. So let's see what we got here in regards to some topics today. We got Abase. Let me just make sure I'm going back far enough. I know Indy tackled some. If I am repeating some that Indy mentioned in the midweek, Stuart, please go ahead and let me know.
Yeah.
Abase says, what do you think? What did you think when the first Superman film from the 80s, Christopher Reeves movie was released, and how big of an impact did it bring to cinema at the time? We're not that old, Abase. How old do you think we are, bro?
It definitely had a big. I can tell you though, it definitely had a big impact because, like, I mean, a Superman movie just in general, I imagine that had to have been a really big risk for Hollywood. And then also making it, obviously there were a couple small changes here and there, but for the most part, very comic book accurate, which for the time, a comic book movie and a comic book movie that's pretty accurate to the source material is just something that you didn't see much back then.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He also says, following Superman, do you agree or disagree that the CW Superman and Lois series is doing an absolutely incredible job at focusing on Clark Kent's responsibilities as a father and the Man of Steel? To me, he brings both the joy and the symbol of the characters from the comics, including veteran actors like Christopher Reeves, Tom Welling, and even Brandon Routh's version from the crossover we had not too long ago. Yeah, I definitely do think um, Tyler Hoechlin, I can't remember pronounce his last name. I definitely do think he's doing an incredible job, incredible work so far. But definitely living up to Superman of the past for sure.
I'll say this. Yeah, because I mean, as you guys know, I freaking love Superman and Lois. This is story wise, this is probably the best Superman, live action we've gotten ever, pretty much, to my opinion. That said, something I thought about a little bit ago is I feel like Man of Steel and Superman and Lois, if they switch Superman, I think that the type of story that they are trying to tell would actually have worked a little bit better because Tyler's a bit younger than Henry Cavill, or at least younger looking than Henry Cavill. So I feel like kind of being the new Superman, like kind of growing into his own, would have been like it would have made more sense if that was the Superman we were given in that movie, rather than kind of a guy who's already like decently old, into his adulthood. And then for Superman and Lois, having Superman who's like a full-on parent, I think might have actually worked better with Henry Cavill. But I'm not sure. I can't say that for sure. But just in my head, that's like kind of, it sounds like that could have actually worked really well.
We also got Jericho Gonzalez with a couple questions. What do you think of John Watts being chosen by Kevin Feige on doing a new Star Wars series? Speaking of Star Wars, do you think the franchise has been milking itself since the original trilogy and the prequels? So just to be clarified, Jericho, what John Watts is creating, Kevin Feige did not choose him for this particular position that he's in. That would probably most likely be Kathleen Kennedy. After all the fantastic hard work that John Watts has done over on Marvel, and with Lucasfilm being a part of Disney Plus, I'm pretty sure that they take notice of that. Kevin Feige does have his own Star Wars project that he's working on, and outside of Michael Waldron, who wrote Loki and Doctor Strange 2, that's really the only information that we have in regards to who the writer is for the Kevin Feige produced movie. So Kevin Feige didn't choose John Watts. That would probably be Kathleen Kennedy. But I like it. I mean, I think we've seen him be able to create a very coming of age story for Peter Parker, see his growth. He's able to establish some amazing supporting characters as well and give them all emphasis in a movie. And I think he's going to do the same exact thing when it comes to this show, when it comes to handling Padawans. I think putting 4 or 5 Padawans on a mission or to get lost in the galaxy and come about their own personal growth and things that they discover and the difficulties that they certainly come through in their journey. I think somebody like John Watts can really bring a great point of view and vision to the Star Wars universe. I do think that he could fit really perfectly in there. But what do you think, Stuart? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think that time he knows how to work with young actors, as we've seen in the Star Wars, in the Spider-Man franchise. So yeah, him working with probably, because they're all probably still Padawans, so probably a slightly younger cast. I think he'll be able to tackle it pretty well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you think the franchise has been milking itself? Since the original trilogy and the prequels too?
I mean, I would say that it started milking itself ever since the TV shows really started taking off, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think as long as the quality stays up, I'm not gonna. You won't see me complaining about too much Star Wars content as long as it's enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think because of the fact that we really haven't gotten too much Star Wars content until the sequel trilogies kind of wrapped up. I mean, we've gone a few years in between sort of big Star Wars projects. Even the focus on animation hasn't felt like it's been milked. They've come out with some really great content that really does its part in being the connective tissue to the overall timeline. So when I look at the animation, I don't necessarily feel like it's milking it at this point. But now I think the fact that we are getting into streaming, I think this is the first time in a long time that we're going to get as much Star Wars content as we possibly can. And when you've got such a rich lore like that, yeah, man, milk it. Milk it for all you can, especially if the content that you're producing is going to be really well received, or at least well thought out and created and not necessarily rushed. And it feels as though Lucasfilm is currently in their bag with some great creators, some great minds, learning from their past lessons. And I think some of the content that we get going forward will prove that, yeah, maybe they are milking the franchise, but at least the content that they're producing is well thought out and well created. But with the exception of maybe Book of Boba. But that's just me though.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually kind of funny because I really liked Book of Boba overall. I think I enjoyed The Mandalorian more, but I actually still really enjoyed Book of Boba.
I think for me, while I walked away liking it, but the way that it kind of came together just felt really weird to me. Like the last half of Book of Boba really worked, and I think that's a lot to do with the additions to all the Mando stuff that we got kind of thrusted into it to wrap it up pretty nicely. And I also kind of enjoyed learning a little bit more about Boba and his connection to the Tusken Raiders, but there still just feels very much like a disconnect for me storyline wise. Like they had one tone that they set the first half, and maybe they didn't like what they had the second half, so they decided let's rewrite that and include all the things that we know certainly works for us. And it just didn't feel even like the same Boba that I got from the Mandalorian season 2 episode. It felt like a watered down version of that same Boba Fett, to me at least. And it just felt a little bit discombobulated. And I think that's where it comes. Well, again, while I walked away thinking that was okay, I liked it, I felt like it was maybe I had my expectations too high, or maybe they gave me something. I don't want to say it didn't feel like a bait and switch to me, but it just felt like it just wasn't what they promised me or what I thought I was personally getting. But that could just be me in regards to how I felt about Boba. So it underwhelmed a little bit, but I'm really glad that you had as much fun and enjoyed it as much as you did, Stuart. Let's see here. How do you feel of Marvel possibly bringing back Stan Lee by using CGI and maybe a stand-in? Do you think it's really unnecessary? We all know his cameos are very fun but brief. If it's like Fast and the Furious films bringing back Paul Walker for the heck of it since Fast 7. Yeah, how do you feel about that? I mean, we know that they've have the rights to digitally recreate, but it's not just digitally too, right? It's the idea of using his likeness on packages and merchandising and things like that. But if they want to virtually or digitally recreate Stan Lee, they certainly can and use him in different ways. Um, how do you feel about that? We talked about that briefly a couple weeks ago.
Not the biggest fan of that, but again, I kind of the same thing as I said with like the whole Chadwick Boseman thing, and then same with Carrie Fisher. I really do think like the decision on what to do with the likeness of someone who's deceased should be with the family of that person, whether or not they're okay with a studio deciding, hey, even though this person's gone, we're still going to use their likeness for for marketing on our side, that kind of stuff. I really do feel like it's the family of those people who should decide the morality on that, because everyone's different in terms of what they think is respectful and disrespectful. And yeah, I feel like only direct family is the one who can really have a say in that.
I definitely get you there, man. Let's see here. We got good old Patrick Martinez. He's got a couple questions for us. What movie that took years or even a decade have you heard about or seen that really paid off? Is there a movie that took years or even a decade, I'm assuming maybe to be put together, that you've heard about or seen that really paid off? So, like, if we waited forever for this movie and it finally dropped, is there any movie that really paid off the idea of waiting so long to get it?
I got two examples. One that's just for kind of a general audience, which is Avatar. I think is like kind of the best example of a movie that took forever, but when it did come out, it literally paid off for the director. The one for me where I feel like patience was definitely a virtue. So keep in mind, when you're young, time goes extremely slow. Like, as you get older, time goes by a lot faster. So this wasn't a long wait in retrospect, but like God, how old was I? I think, oh yeah, I was 10 years old when the movie finally came out. So before that, Attack of the Clones came out, I think 2002, right? And then 2005 is when we got Revenge of the Sith. For some reason, that like gap between those two movies felt way longer than it actually was. Like I could have sworn, after Revenge of the Sith like actually came out, I like if you would ask me on the spot how long has it been since the last Star Wars movie, I probably would have been like, oh, it's been like 7 or 8 years, man. It felt like the longest wait ever. So I guess that would be kind of my answer. And it definitely, I liked it as a kid and I still like it now. It definitely paid off for me. And it's still to this day like my favorite of the prequel movies.
I feel you there too. I'll even say The Force Awakens for me. I really enjoyed The Force Awakens. I feel like every time I go back and watch it, I can definitely enjoy it. And that movie took forever to come out. I mean, we had a huge gap. We didn't even think we were going to get Star Wars movies ever again, even though the entire trilogy itself was certainly rushed into production. I feel like we had been hearing the idea and concepts of, are we getting an episode 9? Like for years, like ever since episode 3 wind up dropping. And the fact that we finally got it, it definitely paid off for me at least. There's also another one in here. I did go ahead and do a quick Google search of movies that took forever to it says top 10 movies that took forever to make. And one of them that jumped out at me was Mad Max Fury Road. It says
Oh yeah.
the ultimate time it took was 15 years. Considering it says that George Miller spent years attempting to reacquire the rights to do his franchise. He planned to begin shooting the film back in 2001, but then we wind up having the 9/11 attacks, and he wind up turning his attention to other places and didn't really start refocusing again on Fury Road until like 2011. So he had plans on doing it back in 2001, but the movie itself didn't drop until 2015, and it was an incredible film. I absolutely loved Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron in that movie. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't know like licensing was like one of the reasons it took forever for that movie to come out. But yeah, that was one I remember hearing about back in the day of like him trying to get it off, get it ready to go.
Yeah, it took him forever. It says, "What do you think of movies and shows that are revivals, bringing back old actors to reprise their characters? What were some of your favorites that have done excellence with creating a brand new story with the old actors while advancing the new actors?" I think the first one that comes to mind's got to be Cobra Kai. But
Mhm.
do you have any other ones that maybe jump out at you?
This one wasn't. I wasn't a fan of this one in particular, but I know a lot of people who really liked the show Fuller House. And of course,
Ah, yeah.
we got that '90s show coming out, which is of course one that I'm super excited about.
Yeah, they tried to do that with the '80s show, you said, but not
Mhm.
successfully. So maybe the '90s show will do that also.
Yeah, and like I said, this one's actually going to have like connective tissues, whereas like that '80s show had kind of nothing to really connect itself to that '70s show.
Absolutely. And one of the upcoming reunion specials that I'm looking forward to, keeping my fingers crossed this is still happening, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers
Oh yeah.
reunion special. We might be able to get opportunity to see at least some of the older Rangers coming back and reprising their role too. We'll see if that's still on the docket for Hasbro with everything that's going on with ASJ right now. But I dig the idea. There is something really interesting of acquiring the older actors now to come back and reprise their role, because especially after like 20 years there is so much growth in just a person naturally, and how our lives change over such a vast amount of time. Like looking back 20 years in my own life, I'm definitely not the same person. That's happened. There's a lot more adventure that's happened in that time period. So I think if we loved the show back then, they can allow them to come back and do a revival. There is something not only nostalgic but really cool about revisiting the character, because I'm always fascinated to see the growth, the trials, the tribulations, the excitement, and all the things that have happened in their life leading up to being who these people are now. And so I'm all for revivals, man. I know some people are tired of like reboots and stuff, but I don't necessarily see this the same way, just because I feel like even though they're the same character, there are differences now. People grow, you know what I mean? And that's the
Mhm.
type of stuff that fascinates me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really hoping it happens. Like, I was bringing this up with Indy. I'm not sure what you think about this, but like, if because like on the Illuminati, they discuss like one of the bigger issues is like even if Austin St. John is innocent, there might be a whole thing where he's not allowed to leave the country because he's under investigation. But I'm just kind of thinking, they've had a similar issue and they've managed to make it work during Forever Red, where they couldn't get the Galaxy Ranger on set with everyone else, but they still managed to green screen him in perfectly fine. If I didn't know he wasn't like actually on set with everyone, I actually wouldn't have realized that. So I think they could totally do the same thing with Austin St. John if they need to.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Maybe they'll visit his prison cell and put a green screen or something. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around. Real quick side note, Dwayne, what's up, Dwayne? He says, "Hello, how are you guys doing? I got a question about the CW. I knew it about Naomi. That's your, huh? Let me hold on. Let me see if I can. Um, I got a question about to see. I knew about to see why Naomi. I don't know what they're doing. What? What are you trying to say, Dwayne?"
I
I'm trying to find a really good one here. I'm gonna need you to work on your grammar a little bit, Wayne, in regards to sending these to us, man. I knew about it, Naomi. That's your one. That girl, they're better, or do a painkiller. I guess maybe he's disappointed in the Naomi series. Maybe he feels the painkiller kind of would have been a better choice, but I still believe the CW will do painkiller one day. No, I think CW is over that, man. I unfortunately, as much as I'm a big Black Lightning fan and we pushed for painkiller, I think the days of going backwards are done. I think I think the actor that played painkiller has probably moved on to bigger and better things. Would have had I preferred painkiller over Naomi?
Mhm.
Absolutely. As and I don't mind Naomi, but talk about a bore fest for some people. At least painkiller would have brought us the action and some great continuity from Black Lightning. So I will agree with you there, Dwayne, in the sense that I do think painkiller would have probably done better with than what Naomi certainly did. But I think the time of painkiller is past us, though. Let's see here. We also got a couple questions. Adrian Perez, what are your favorite superhero villains of all time? He says specifically Marvel, DC, Power Rangers, and other. That's a pretty broad question. You have any favorite superhero villains of all time, Stuart?
Got quite a few. Actually, I'll go with one of the more recent ones. I really love Eclipso from Stargirl. Just
Mm,
being just as terrifying and just like so easy to hate as he was. I think he was just so perfectly well done, just being pure, absolute evil.
and going off the Eclipse, I'll even put off Ecliptor from In Space as a Power Ranger villain.
Oh,
It's
nice,
like it's a great
nice.
one.
And then from Marvel, I think some of my favorite villains from Marvel are kind of like some of the more like ones where you kind of see their perspective. Like I think the best one they did was Killmonger, where it's like, okay, you definitely get his point of view. And then like Thanos, where it's like he's wrong in every way, but at the same time, I can definitely see how he's able to justify, his actions in his head, and it makes a lot of sense. How to him his idea seems perfect.
Yeah, I'll even throw Loki in there, and I'll even throw in recently good old Scarlet Witch, man. I thought she was an
Oh
incredible villain
yeah.
for Doctor Strange too. Very menacing to say the least, and just her motivations alone, and everything that she's kind of gone through since WandaVision. I've really enjoyed her build up, and not just WandaVision, but I mean just going back to the Infinity Saga and seeing everything that took place in her life and all the pain and stuff. I've really enjoyed her trajectory so far. So I'm really looking forward to it. Um, let's see here. You also say 14 years ago, The Incredible Hulk was released. It was widely seen as the black sheep of the MCU, where Edward Norton decided to quit playing the character of not being pleased with the final cut of the film, resulting in Mark Ruffalo in taking over the role. I thought he was more displeased in not being. I thought he wanted too much money, I thought, to come back for the Avengers movie, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to read into that a little bit more. He says it's a shame as it still is a pretty good film for some people. What are your thoughts on the movie? I think people have come around to enjoying it a lot more. I don't know if I look at it so much as the black sheep of the MCU. I mean, maybe it is in a sense that it's taken them a while to, I feel like, sometimes reference it. I feel like now we're finally getting there with like She-Hulk and things like that. Um, so maybe it was the black sheep for quite some time, but it's always been an MCU movie that I enjoyed. I've always liked Edward Norton's take on the Incredible Hulk, and it was a big improvement from the Eric Bana Hulk that we wind up getting. Personally, I think.
Yeah, I thought it's definitely one of my least favorite of the MCU movies, but I don't think it's like a terrible movie. I always say this, if like, Thor 2 or, Incredible Hulk is your worst movie out of like a bunch of other movies that you made, you're not doing a bad job if those are your worst movies, because, I think Incredible Hulk is actually okay. I think it was really well filmed. I think my biggest issue with it, though, and I hate blaming actors, for a movie not working, but I feel like Betty Ross, the actress they got to play her, she's normally good in a lot that she does.
Mhm.
She was so terrible in Incredible Hulk. Like she genuinely is one of the, like, when I think about things I didn't like about the movie, she's like the
She's
main
one of
thing
them.
that keeps popping up in my head.
Yeah, and I really enjoy Liv Tyler too. I think she's definitely more capable of a bigger role than what they had for her in the Incredible Hulk, which kind of just surprises me that the MCU hasn't brought her on board or brought her back. Maybe she doesn't want to do it or anything like that. But I've always felt that there was a great place for Liv Tyler in the MCU if they ever wanted her to return. I mean, you bring back Natalie Portman, a great actress who had one of the more boring characters in the MCU, and Jane Foster. And now they've managed to turn her into the mighty Thor. Not to say that Liv Tyler comes out of anywhere and becomes a version of the Hulk herself, but I do think if you've got a great writer and a great director, I think Liv can really fit in the MCU still to this day.
Mhm.
He also says, aside from the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, we also had one with Eric Bana, which we referenced, which was very popular film. He says that grossed a ton of money at the box office. Can you pull up the box office for the first Hulk movie? With the
Yeah.
only issue being there was too too much dialogue, not enough action. I saw the movie at our friend's birthday party, and the movie still holds up incredibly well, no pun intended. I'm kind of curious, Adrian, what movie you watched. That's not the movie that I remember when I watched Hulk the first time. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it for what it was, but I thought it was a bore fest, man. Honestly, I thought there was hardly no dialogue. I thought there was practically like no soundtrack attached to this movie. I thought the action was boring too. And I think I might have even fallen asleep in the theaters once or twice watching this film. I'm glad it holds up incredibly well for you, but the Eric Bana Hulk movie for me was forgetful. Honestly, I don't remember it doing that well, but maybe I'm wrong in that regards.
Okay, so yeah, this was definitely not a success. It barely broke even from in the box office, which means its only profit was from home releases. But basically, the budget was 137 million, which means you have
What?
the budget though,
I
which means
know,
you have
but
to
damn.
yeah, which means you got to double that. So it was a little over. So it'd be 274.
That's
Am I doing the math
oh,
correctly?
okay, okay.
274. So that's basically what you have to assume the budget was. Like always double the budget because that's how much they spend on marketing. They always match the marketing with the budget. And then the overall gross was 200 and so it didn't break even. My bad. 245.4 million. So it actually underperformed in the box office if you include marketing.
I gotcha. Yeah. So if anything, that would probably be a sign for me. The idea of putting that type of money back again into a sequel probably doesn't seem that worth it to me personally. So I can see why they maybe went a completely different direction and course correction with the Incredible Hulk movie. How did the Incredible Hulk movie do?
Let's find out. The Incredible Hulk box office. Oh god, that one also didn't do. Man, I guess the Hulk movies are just like cursed because that one only did $264.8 million. What was that one's budget? Hang on.
It's probably more.
Yeah, I mean it was a Marvel movie. Okay, so 150 million. So you got to assume it was at least $300 million.
So even that movie didn't do too well.
You know, it's funny. People are like wondering why it is Universal doesn't want to make another solo Hulk movie, especially because they have the rights. I think this is the reason.
Yeah, I think this is the reason too. But I am curious if whether or not now that we've had a decade of Marvel successes, if the idea of creating another Hulk movie, if it was based in our MCU, if people would, if the reception to it would be handled significantly different. Again, we unfortunately won't get ourselves a solo Hulk film without Universal's permission, but I guess we'll see. But that's interesting, the fact that they both really didn't do too great at the box office. But again, I'm really glad that you enjoyed that movie, Adrian. Let's move on to our next couple questions. We got Kurt Marino. What did you think of the Walking Dead series? And do you think it was really good or mixed? And do you think there will be a new reboot of it in the future, or spinoffs or prequels? I think Walking Dead probably has got more spinoffs at this point than I can even count on one hand. But they probably have, I think, at least like 3 or 4 that are out there, honestly, right now. They had the Fear the Walking Dead. They also got one with the 2 cast members from The Walking Dead that's supposed to be coming back, Norman Reedus. Um, but I think the actress that he was supposed to work with, has bowed out of this series, because I know Norman Reedus' character, Daryl, was supposed to get a spinoff. So he's got a spinoff. Fear the Walking Dead's got a spinoff. There was a spinoff, I think, of like kids that were born during this time period that all they know was like the post-apocalyptic world. I can't remember the name of that spinoff series, or if that's even been canceled as well. But plenty of spinoffs when it comes to the world of Walking Dead for you guys. But it was a series that I loved when it dropped. I stuck with it for as long as I could, and then I eventually fell off. Maybe like the season in which Negan was finally introduced. I saw the unfortunate fate of some of the cast members by the hand of Negan, and I think that was probably the last series or the last season of the show that I've watched. And since then, I think they've dropped like 3 or 4 more seasons. So it's been a minute, but what's your relationship like with The Walking Dead, Stuart?
I got an Oh, also, could you block that
Yeah, I got you. I got
comment?
you.
Because like for some reason it's not letting me do it. So I have an interesting relationship with The Walking Dead because when it first premiered, it was one of my favorite shows on television, and it stayed that way consistently for the first 5 seasons. Like
Mhm.
seasons 1 through 5 to me were just like perfect, like amazing. Even season 2, which wasn't the best written of the seasons, I actually thought it was pretty decent for the most part. And then season 6 is when it kind of started to go downhill for me. Like it felt like that was the season where it really felt like a filler season overall. It
Mm.
actually is probably the best way to put it. Like I liked elements of it. I loved Morgan, like what they did with his character in season 6, I thought was incredible.
Yeah,
In
that's pretty
fact,
cool.
I think the episode that focused on him, where it was like an hour and a half long special, I actually think that was one of my favorite episodes of the series. But yeah, I felt like really they didn't know what they wanted to do, so it just felt like padding until like we finally got Negan at the end, which excited me because at that point I was caught up on the comic books and I was keeping up with it on a monthly basis. So finally seeing Negan being introduced in The Walking Dead and played by, like, to me, the perfect actor for Negan. You know, I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan was like the biggest win they could have gone for with actors to excuse me, to portray that character. And then season 7 and 8 is where I kind of fell out of it. Season 7, because it again almost felt like filler, because it was basically an entire season of we should do something. We should do something. Should we do something? We should do something. And Negan also, like, it's weird. He went from, you know, the first episode of season 7 being like one of the most terrifying villains out there
Yeah.
to suddenly like this person just killed a bunch of my men, but it's a woman, so I don't want to kill her or anything. That'd be too mean. Oh, this kid just killed a bunch of my men too. But he's a kid, so whatever. We'll let him off the hook too. You know, that kind of stuff happened way too much during season 7, and it's just like, I don't know why we're supposed to be afraid of you anymore. And then season 8 was just so boring because it was just because they decided, okay, one season of setting up for the war and then one season of an actual war. It just made them both feel just so like just milked and extended. So season 8, you know, it was like the character development didn't exist anymore. It was characters acted how they needed to for each individual episode, not because there was like an arc to their story or anything like that. And it was just, you know, action, 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 but not good action. It was just kind of like mediocre cable network action. So it got so boring. And then season 9 is the last season I watched, where like the first 4 episodes I was really into, and then they get to the episode where they were really hyping it up for some reason, which is weird. They were like, we're gonna kill off Rick this season, guys. You guys are gonna love it. Rick's gonna get killed off. And then they get to the episode and they don't even kill him off. They just kind of make him go away in some really bad writing. And that was when I'm like, okay, I'm done with this series now.
Has Rick come back? Is he supposed to? I thought he was supposed to have like a trilogy of movies or something, or at least come back for
Yeah.
some movies. Have they scrapped those?
As far as I know, they're still like in development, but like I
Okay.
haven't heard anything from those ever since, because that was announced back in like 2009.
I mean, I can't lie. Like, there is an aspect of The Walking Dead that a part of me wants to go back and rewatch and kind of get caught up again. But another part of me is like, that's just a waste of my time at this point, since I've fallen off and so much has certainly happened. But, you know, I'm sure there definitely are still the Walking Dead fans out there. But I used to love the series, and I don't have really any bad things to say about it. Just the fact that I just kind of fell off after a long period of time. So we'll see if how it continues to push forward. With both Shazam 2 and Black Adam coming out in a year or two. I think they're both coming out this year, aren't they?
Yeah. In fact, I think like there's a whole thing where they're like coming out a month apart from each other.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna look that up real quick.
Black Adam release. I think that's in I want to say November. Oh, October 21st of this year. And Shazam 2, I think, is taking place in like December.
Oh yeah. So one's coming out October, the other December.
Yeah, so in no year or two, we're talking like 5 months, 5 or 6 months at this point. What do you want to see from both that can differentiate themselves from the superhero films, and from the two of them concerning Black Adam was referred to in the first Shazam movie. I think for me, one, introducing the JSA, plus I think maybe the time period that it's going to be focused on. I think exploring more of Black Adam's past maybe introduces us a little bit more to, I don't know, is it the Egyptian side of things? I don't really know, but I got to think it would open up the doors for more conversations about the gods in general. And I think if it can open up the gate to that side of the DCEU that we haven't really been explored in before, I think visiting maybe some of the past history of the gods and how Shazam and Black Adam fit into all that, I think is pretty unique, and some things that I would like to see in regards to differentiating itself from other superhero films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also like it taking a much different direction with the actual like main character not even really being a superhero, but being like a very anti-hero with like all these powers, being someone who's going to be working against your traditional superheroes. I think that's like another thing that'll really differentiate it.
Let's see here. Let's move on. We got Mackenzie with a couple of questions here. Let's see. She says, that the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial controversy that has been going on, and how many Depp fans want her out of Aquaman movie franchise. What do you think of cancel culture in a general, and why many people always want celebrities to lose their jobs when they find themselves in legal troubles? Like, what does getting famous people fired benefit their lives in any way from the stuff they watch? Don't compare an actor to their characters. Anything in response to that?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to, depending on, it's kind of like the idea of like if someone's doing something that's like an actual crime, like in the case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, it's actual domestic abuse that what's going on trial there. If someone's guilty of that, and then they're getting paid millions of dollars and it's all getting brushed under the rug. Yeah, it makes sense that even though it doesn't affect me personally, it's like one of those things where it's like, wow, so this person just gets to get away with doing these crimes because they have a lot of money and that kind of stuff. And it also, as we kind of have seen, can be very dangerous, because we see with like Harvey Weinstein the stuff that he was able to get away with because he's rich, and therefore for the longest time he thought he was untouchable. So that's kind of like the big thing that really a lot of people want to see changed in Hollywood for very obvious reasons, because that's not okay.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, while the trial itself hasn't concluded, there haven't been any final decisions or anything like that. The idea of defamation and putting the idea out there that somebody is something that they're not, and you're technically affecting their lives and the opportunities that come out, that come their way, to kind of paint yourself kind of as a victim, only to find out that you've lied about some of the stuff that you've done, that you've painted yourself to look a different type of way than you were before. I mean, that's really terrible in regards to both parties, honestly. I mean, look, I haven't really watched enough of the Depp and Heard trial to really get into the nitty gritty of both situations, with the exception of both of these people are kind of toxic in my eyes. Like, I think they're just both really terrible for each other. And unfortunately, their personal business is now being spewed legally for everybody to certainly see. But I think it gives us a much better idea as to the wrongdoings of both. How some people have maybe twisted truths around, and when you get caught, and when you've lied to people hate the idea of you lying to them, and they've had your back for such a long time, and they find out that you lied, then yeah, people are gonna unfortunately turn on you. Look, cancel culture sucks. I absolutely love it. I mean, I absolutely hate it, and it is one of those things where sometimes it's a little bit too over the top. Sometimes I think we take things a little bit way too much. Yeah, man, and we'll see what happens with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard stuff, but I don't really know too much about exactly what's going on.
What's funny is I've been keeping up with certain aspects of the trial, just the ones that get highlighted, and most of them have absolutely nothing to do with like the actual thing that's going on with trial. My favorite is someone asking Johnny about when he was doing drugs with Marilyn Manson, and you know, Johnny just kind of like, he constantly just like during this trial looks like he just got out of bed. And so he's just like, well, I had to do drugs with Marilyn Manson. Oh, and why is that? Because he was talking.
Damn, really? Oh wow,
It's
okay.
the funniest response I think I've ever seen to a weird question like that.
Um,
Uh
Mackenzie also say, are these DCCW Arrowverse shows being canceled, similar to when the Marvel Netflix series were being shut down when Marvel brought on Kevin Feige as the new leader of Marvel Studios? There's an aspect of that that I do think so. You know, the CW head, the CEO of CW says, you know, it felt like I think we kind of talked about this, right? So when we were trying to figure out what the future of DC television and the CW was going to look like, and you know, the CW CEO came out and mentioned, "Oh yeah, we're still going to stick into the DC, this DC superhero business," you know. But it felt more like not a certainty, but more like a plea to Warner Brothers Discovery. Like, please let us continue to have some of these characters. I know you're taking them away from us,
mhm.
but can we just have these C level, B level guys? Just give us something so we can kind of stay, you know, continuing to produce DC superhero shows. If that's the case, we'll see. We got Gotham Knights coming our way. We'll see if they create anything new in the coming future or not. But it feels to me like I feel like they're canceling. I feel like that's the trajectory. Like anything that they make kind of going forward will probably be either on HBO Max or the movie realm side of things, and cutting off those lower budget productions. But I personally always feel there's room for lower budget productions. But I guess it really just depends on, are you getting the viewership and are you actually making a profit off of these low budget cost or not. But I'm kind of under that impression that that's where it's going, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. What about you, Stuart?
I see the Flash ending not getting canceled, but I feel like the shows that they currently got going on aren't going to be getting canceled anytime soon. I just don't think we're going to get that much new content anymore. You know, I feel like Gotham Knights might be the last new superhero, or I mean, I don't even know if I can say superhero show. Sorry, new DC show that we're going to get for the CW for a while. Justice U, I honestly don't see it happening anymore. Like
Yeah, that Diggle led
I
series.
kind
Yeah,
of yeah,
I
like I
forgot
kind of
all
hope
about
I'm
it.
wrong. Yeah, like I kind of hope I'm wrong because it would be cool to kind of see the Arrowverse continuing on. You know, and I think they could do it in the terms of like they wouldn't have to license out any characters if they just like make their own original IPs for the show. Because even though Diggle is technically like Jon Stewart, it's different enough. And with him having the name Diggle, I mean, I think it's you know, they should still be able to use them all they want without having to license him out from or get him licensed out to them from DC. But like when it comes to like new DC characters, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it actually gets canceled, if it hasn't been canceled already. But we'll see, though. We'll definitely see. Nicole Robertson, what's up, Nicole? Appreciate you coming through. What TV show or movies that you watched as a kid you want to return for a modern day adaptation? I'm going to go into my animated bag real quick and say Silverhawks.
Hmm.
I know a lot that many people probably remember it from the 80s, but I used to be a big fan. The costume design, the artwork, stories. I mean, it was like a rock opera, a rock sci-fi opera in space, bro. And I absolutely loved it. And I would love to see it either get a live action version or even an updated animated series in regards to that. What about you, though?
I kind of want to see either a show that kind of returns to the DC animated universe, or and by DC animated universe I mean like Batman animated series, Superman animated series, Justice League, those shows. Or I would also not be opposed to finally getting a Teen Titans season 6, where it like goes for
Mm.
kind of like a older audience, kind of do the same thing that they did with Young Justice and Samurai Jack when they brought those shows back. Like have it totally match like what the show was before, but just have it be like with more like adult kind of animation go into it, like so being able to show blood, maybe have some of the characters swear, that kind of stuff.
There was something else on the tip of my tongue that I had that I wouldn't mind seeing. Um, modernized, but damn it, I just lost up. If it comes back to me, I'll definitely go ahead and bring it up. But that's a good one, Stuart. Um, what do you think of when you first saw or heard Chris Pine's Star Trek coming back for a movie franchise? Following, would you like to have new generation of Star Trek film with cameos from old actors from either TV shows or past films?
Well, I mean, we kind of have that with Star Trek Picard, because they got a lot of different actors from the
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek series, like kind of making cameos. In fact, like from what I hear, Picard season 3 is basically going to be the next generation cast all coming
Oh,
back.
oh shit.
I
Okay.
could be wrong. Do not quote me on that. I haven't watched Picard season 2 yet. I've just heard that from someone who has. So don't quote me on that.
I gotcha. Oh, and just to go back to the previous question about shows that we watched as kids or movies, I've said this before on A Plus More Phenomenal, but VR Troopers. I would like a
Hmm.
modern take on VR Troopers just based off of where we are technologically wise when it comes to the whole virtual reality thing. I would love to see a different perspective on VR Troopers if that's the case. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, actually, speaking of VR troopers, I actually wouldn't be opposed to seeing, other tokusatsu's get adapted the same way Power Rangers does. I don't think it's gonna happen because it sounds like they're kind of no longer doing the stock footage route of, making TV shows anymore. But if they ever wanted to go back to that kind of cheaper style, they could totally do that with Ultraman and Kamen Rider.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they're definitely trying to push Ultraman and Kamen Rider these days. We got a question from Jorge here. Appreciate it, Jorge. What were some of your favorite action sequences and wire work from any of the MCU movies and or Disney Plus series?
Definitely love the airport fight from Captain America Civil War.
Mm.
That's still like one of my favorites. And then almost any fight scene from Shang-Chi.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll dig a little deeper for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I love the climactic battle between Bucky and Falcon against John Walker's Captain America in the warehouse. I
Hmm.
absolutely love that sequence between the three of them in there. You can. I know it's not quite the MCU as of yet, but I always do go back to like any Daredevil fight scene from the
Yes.
from the Netflix series always wins me over. And I will, everybody says the hallway scene, but I'm also going to give seasons 3 prison scene a recommendation as well as some of my favorites because I absolutely love that. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I've seen recently that I've been hella impressed with.
Ooh, actually, this is relevant to the episode. I just since you mentioned, the hallway fight, which and the prison fight, both of which were like single take action scenes. One of my favorite single take action scenes probably comes from True Detective season 1, when you have like this whole thing where Matthew McConaughey's character is trying to apprehend a suspect while also trying to avoid both cops and gangsters
Mm.
at the same time through like hopping fences in these backyards, and it's all done in one take. And by the time it's over, man, you feel as exhausted as Matthew
Yes,
McConaughey.
yeah, that's a great one, man. That's a great one. Let's see here. We got Jericho Gonzalez. He says, how Ruby Rose and her Batwoman co-star had beef online, mainly Cameron Johnson, who played Luke Fox. Do you think Ruby was really the victim or the writers and other actors? If it was Ruby who was the issue, why would season 2 be all about finding Kate Kane and getting her back while introducing Ron Wilder, unless the showrunner who Ruby said played a part in nearly getting her paralyzed still wanting to please fans who loved Kate? I'll let you tackle that a little bit, Stuart. But I think the idea is, you have a loose thread there, right? I think you have a loose thread that kind of needs to be explained. I think that was one of the things that we were trying to figure out. Like, okay, so Ruby Rose isn't here. How do you create a season 2 because of some of maybe the loose ends? And their decision was to still work with that Kate King character, but introduce somebody else. So could they have done things differently? Absolutely. But I think when you have storylines and stuff that are still, it's such a brand new season, and they're still so new to these characters when it comes to the end of season 1. Maybe there's a part of that story you have to at least continue to focus on. But how do you feel about that question in general?
I mean, I kind of feel like the writers, when addressing Kate Kane, they definitely wanted to make sure they're addressing Kate Kane and not Ruby Rose whenever praising like the stuff that Kate Kane had done before Javicia Leslie took over. And shoot, shoot,
Well,
I
he
had
says,
like
do you?
I
He
was
says,
gonna say something with that and I completely forgot.
yeah. He says, do you think Ruby was really the victim, or the writers and the other
Right.
actors?
I think there's probably blame on both sides. And I say that because, there are a few things that Ruby Rose said that were definitely true. Like people did get injured because we heard about it through other articles. And, when you're working on a TV show, I know you have a tight budget and you have to get things done fast. But, when it comes to the safety of others, I think that's when, even if you're going to fall behind on production, that seems a little bit more important than making sure you're finishing something on time. You got to film also like the 3S's: slow, safe, and secure, and if clearly if you're injured, if you have 3 injuries in one season, you're not taking the proper precaution that you should be taking. But at the same time, I have heard from many, many, many different actors now, ever since the articles that ever since Ruby Rose came out about Batwoman. I have heard from many actors that she is a pain in the ass to apparently work with.
That's what I hear
So
too.
there is a good chance that a lot of what she had said was definitely over exaggerated or straight up a lie, which I wouldn't doubt either. But the things that we do know are true, though, are definitely when it comes to some of the injuries that really should have been preventable. And then, well, actually, I think that's about it. Just the injuries that we knew were preventable, but they still ended up happening.
Yeah, and so I would definitely say do some research too. I mean, I definitely agree with everything that Stuart said here, but I'm sure there's probably blame to certainly go on both sides, but there's plenty of stories that I've definitely heard in regards to Ruby Rose's work ethic and just her attitude in general. So take that as you will, but definitely do some research in regards to that. Marco Simpson 18 asks, would you ever like to see characters from the prequel trilogy of Star Wars interact and team up with Luke Skywalker and newbies of the modern era? Um, since Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader in the prequels, does that make him Darth Vader that Solo and Luke had already fought, or does not exist at all? So let's do this one thing at a time. Would you ever like to see characters from the prequel trilogy interact and team up with Luke Skywalker and newbies of the modern era?
I mean, that'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't want it to be there just for the sake of fan service. And the problem is, I don't know how you can bring back prequel characters without just forcing it in there. So I guess in that sense, I'm probably going to say no.
Yeah, I think the only prequel character that we have interacting right now with the more modern era is Ahsoka. She does come from the era of the Clone Wars. She wasn't in any of the prequel movies, but during that time period, Ahsoka is around in that world. And I think outside of her, yeah, I think she's the only person that's getting the opportunity to interact with the younger Luke Skywalker in the modern era. After that, after this time period of young Luke Skywalker, I mean, we're talking about in an extra 30 years. So are those people from the prequels even still alive during that? I mean, some of them probably were, depending on their alien race, if they aged a little slower, or are certainly still around. But yeah, I think right now just only Ahsoka. So maybe Jar Jar Binks is hiding somewhere. Maybe he comes and meets Luke at some point in time. Who knows? I have no idea. But I don't think we're going to see too much of that. But he also says, since Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader in the prequels, does that make him the Darth Vader that Han Solo and Luke had already fought, or doesn't exist at all? It's the same character.
Yeah.
Darth Vader is Darth Vader. So Anakin Skywalker from the prequels turning into Darth Vader is the same Darth Vader that we see in the original trilogy. They're all connected, Marcos. Let's see here. We got J.K. Lawrence 89. Last Sunday, you mentioned that Gotham Knights will be led by the same writers and showrunner of Batwoman. Do you think the toxic people who hated Batwoman will suddenly be like, hey, this show is damn good? Probably. Basically, they just really hated Batwoman since day one because of Ruby Rose and Javicia Leslie, and thinking the show was just being woke. What do you think, Stuart?
I mean, like I thought Batwoman as a show, had a lot of issues. I think, like I said, like season 3 was really the only season I really enjoyed. Seasons 1 and 2 had some really good episodes, but I feel like as seasons they didn't work too well. So you can not like Batwoman and not be a toxic, reviewer. V Infuso is actually probably a YouTube reviewer I can think of that gave Batwoman a pretty negative review, but I wouldn't consider him toxic at all. As for the people who aren't going to like, okay, I'm going to sound extremely douchey here, but I'm going to say this, man, when it comes to Gotham Knights, people who didn't like Batwoman are not going to like Gotham Knights, and people who liked Batwoman are probably not going to like Gotham Knights. I feel like the people who are going to like Gotham Knights are the Riverdale crowd, because that I am 99% sure that is the direction that they're taking this, because they seem to really not want to go in a superhero direction with this. And even in some of the more comic booky, characters, like we got Harvey Dent in here, but notice they say Harvey Dent and not Two-Face,
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't think this is going to be a show that really is going to appeal to the comic book nerds. I think it's really more for the teen drama crowd, and that's fine. That's, if you're into that, that's totally cool.
So let me ask you, are we just getting another Naomi?
I think so. Like
why,
in terms of, I don't know.
That would really drive me crazy. I mean, just from the first look of Gotham Knights that we got from the promotional art, I mean, there's no costumes there. It literally is just characters set in Gotham. So you might be right. Maybe it is kind of Riverdale-ish, but I think that's what bit Naomi in the ass too, was the lack of superheroing. Like, that's just not the type of stuff that we get. But again, we haven't seen the series, we haven't seen the pilot, so I'll definitely go ahead and certainly let it speak for itself. But we'll see, man. We'll see how people react to Gotham Knights. Let's see here. Michael Rhymes says, despite the issues with Ezra Miller, what do you think of Sasha Calle, who is the new upcoming Supergirl? In an interview, I guess she says representation in entertainment industry really matters, and I'm super honored, honestly, to be the first Latina Supergirl. There was a moment when we were shooting when Andy was like, hey, come over here and watch the scene on the playback monitor. And I go over there and I see her, Supergirl, and she's in her full glory, is what he says. He says, Kaye continued her story, admitting that she suddenly grew emotional because I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, I wish I had this when I was little. It meant a lot to me. And yeah, I mean, I listen, I'm not too familiar with Sasha Calle in her regards to her other work that she's done. So I don't really know the caliber of actor that she is, that she's going to bring to the role when it comes to being Supergirl. But as far as representation goes, yes, absolutely, representation matters. And it does have that effect on people. I love the fact that Calle had a very sort of vulnerable moment there where she sees this woman in all her glory looking at herself as Supergirl and realizing, like, man, I kind of wish that I had this role model or hero to kind of look up as to, when I was a little girl. Because trust me when I say, I'm pretty sure Sasha Calle, up until this particular point in time in her life, probably never thought that she would be a Supergirl, right? Or get that opportunity to be Supergirl. And the fact that she sees herself in that role now, she realizes, honestly, like, man, I wish I had that as a kid, or this representation as a kid, because now little girls will know you can be Supergirl one day, right? Like, you can attach yourself to these big iconic superheroes despite certainly what came or what didn't come before you, sort of thing. And I think that's really eye-opening for people, in a sense of just giving people belief that you're seen and that you can have an impact in this world and that you do matter. And I think those are the type of values and lessons that we should be learning, instead of how people sometimes want to skew the idea and importance of representation. Like, it continues to surprise me. I'm gonna say surprise me, but it continues to shock me more and more people that I see that are truly impacted by seeing themselves represented on the big screen, whether they're kids or even grown adults. I definitely come across it quite often. So I love what she said there, though.
Yeah, for sure. again, I can't really say anything about her acting skills because I haven't seen her in anything, but I can say this: she definitely looks pretty awesome, like in that suit. The suit is great, and it looks great on her. And the fact that she's excited about doing it, those kind of interviews get me excited because when an actor is excited for a role, that's when you tend to get like a better performance out of them.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys, and I think with that, we are about to push 3 hours here, so I think we're probably going to go ahead and wrap up for you guys today. We do have a plethora of other comments. We're going to begin with Danny Morales back from May 25th, and we'll just continue to certainly go through all of these questions. And if anything, what I do want to start doing, Stuart, because we are getting so many live viewer questions. This is something that I think we'll start addressing at the beginning of our episodes when we suggest people to turn in their live viewer questions. We're probably going to go to the format of just one question a person. So if you do have yourself a live viewer question, please submit just one question over, because we are getting a ton of emails in regards to live viewer questions, and they're usually about maybe 2 or 3 questions in there. So at this point in time, if you've got a live viewer question, feel free to submit them in, but make that one question count, as we will, in fact, be tackling one email and one question per person. Nobody's skipping any questions, Marcelino. There's plenty of other questions here besides yours that we will be tackling. Stuart this week will probably be tackling some questions in his own individual live viewer questions for you. And if not, or with both, we may even be doing a midweek episode again this week, and maybe we'll have Indy tackle some more questions. So we're just doing our best to go ahead and certainly get caught up, and when your question comes up, we will certainly get to you. So in the future, guys, remember, one email, one question, but feel free to certainly submit it over anytime during the week, whether it's a article you read, a rumor or a speculation, or a movie that you certainly watch, you want to pick our brains about, feel free to go ahead and certainly submit them over. But I think that will wrap up the live viewer questions. Are there any stragglers and comments wise, Stuart, that you want to tackle before we get on out of here? I'll look in the comments too.
Oh, actually, I do have a opinion on this part here with the Gina Carano thing. Okay, so the big reason, and this is like something that people seem to keep leaving out of to why she got fired. A lot of people are constantly kind of saying, "Oh, it was because of her opinions." Well, kind of, but it was also because in a Twitter post she tagged, the Mandalorian for a joke that was basically kind of a very poor taste joke, and it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's kind of how it works. Like, whether or not you find that fair, you can't really be surprised if someone gets fired for that. Like, if I were to say something extremely raunchy and then tag the Alamo Drafthouse in that post on Twitter, I would be very shocked if I didn't get fired the next day. That's how the world works. So, just to give a little bit more clarification as to why she was fired. It wasn't fully because of cancel culture. You could say that maybe that was why she was under Disney's radar and why they were keeping an eye on her. But overall, the straw that broke the camel's back was her tagging the Mandalorian in a raunchy post. So yeah,
I got you. And let me, in fact, let's get to one last question here, because actually, Marcelino, I think we might have skipped this because it was back from May 22nd. There's a couple questions here, so let's kind of go through these as quickly as we can. What was your favorite Arrowverse crossover we got, Stuart?
Probably Crisis on Infinite Earths. I just, in this whole scope of what they were able to pull off, I just loved.
I'll go with Elseworlds to be different. There was a fun aspect to it that I really enjoyed. He says, when it comes to people going back to the woke culture, he says, when it comes to people who complain about woke culture, they said that they've been starting their own independent companies to create their own movies, TV shows, comics, video games, and more that they claim aren't woke related. My question is, if there are people if these are people you may disagree with or not even like, are you open to watching some of their content? If you are, I can tell you where you can find it. If it's good content, I'll check it out. If it's not good, then no, I'm not going to waste my time. For me, it's the content, not what's the purpose of it. If it's good and enjoyable, I'll definitely go ahead and check it out. But if it's not, then yeah, don't send it my way, please.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Just because something, it's kind of like the same thing both ways. Just because something is woke, that doesn't mean it's automatically going to be bad writing. And just because something is not woke, that doesn't mean it's going to automatically be good writing. We've seen examples of it working. Both. We've seen woke shows that are great and woke shows that are terrible. Just like we've seen unwoke shows that are great and unwoke shows that are terrible as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm open to it, but if it's not creating any buzz, if people aren't talking about it, if it's not a really, solid and enjoyable show, then no, I don't want to check it out. I love the first Shazam movie, but one thing I did have a problem with is how the seven deadly sins were used. They were just sort of generic CGI monsters. If I were in charge, I would instead have them possess seven humans and have them portrayed by human actors. Some interactions including wrath, challenging pride for leadership, greed, stealing gluttony's food, sloth not caring about anything, and everyone always picking on greed because he is the runt. The latter would be important because at the end of the scene where Shazam tricks greed into depowering Savannah, would be about greed trying to prove to his siblings that he isn't weak. That would make a scene more impactful because then greed would be more of a character and not just some soldier. So how did you feel about how they represented the seven deadly sins in Shazam?
I definitely see where you're coming from, and I do kind of agree to an extent. It would have been cooler if we got more of them individually, but at the same time, I do also get why we didn't, because Shazam was a pretty long movie as it was, and if they were to add, they would have either had to make the movie a little bit too long, or they would have had to take away a lot of the human characteristic scenes from our main characters, and so we would have had a less likable, Shazam. So it was. I think the problem was that they had too many characters overall. So if they were going to try to give focus to all the individual seven deadly sins, I just don't think it would have worked pacing wise.
I get you. I see what you mean. But yeah, I do see Marcelino's point of view. I mean, I am a fan of more human villains, but I think you're probably onto something in regards to it. If you're not going to be focusing on them like that, the idea of making them CGI monsters, I see why they went that route for sure.
Like maybe the solution would have been to not use characters like the seven deadly sins where, you have like depth with them in the comic books. Maybe use like just generic monsters that just,
Right.
don't have any purpose.
I totally get you there. All right, guys. I think other than that, I think that will do it for our episode of A Plus Hero Report today. So thank you very much, guys, for everybody that certainly joined us and everybody's participation in regards to comments and questions and things like that. And hopefully you certainly will be joining us next weekend for our live episode of A Plus Hero Report every Sunday at noon Central Time. And we'll definitely try and see if we can go ahead and bring you not only a live viewer question video this week, but also maybe a midweek episode this upcoming Wednesday, depending on Indy's availability, along with Stuart. So we'll go ahead and keep you guys posted. But Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
You guys can follow me at Twitter at TurboStew01.
Awesome, guys. And if you want to follow us on social media, you can certainly do so if you'd like to, right here at A Plus Opinions. Very active over on social media. You can find us over on Twitter as well as Instagram and our main page, which is in fact our Facebook page. Go ahead and certainly like over there, as we certainly keep you posted throughout the week in regards to news, rumors, trailers, posters, etc. We definitely will go ahead and keep you up to date there. And then if anything, feel free to certainly subscribe to our channel and join us over on our Discord forum community, guys. There is a link in the description box below. But other than that, we'll certainly see you guys next week. And in the meantime, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.